come up, and they're just gonna, I know we have some officers from Tallahassee that didn't get, they're here just to answer questions. But I think you could ask questions of any and all of them. So you come on around, y'all come around and fill in. I'm gonna move over here. It's gonna be kind of out of the way. You're fine, you're perfectly fine.
Okay.
I'm just gonna turn this way because I won't have my back. So, thank y'all all for coming today. Of course, this is your state school board. Dr. Richardson here is the vice president of the board, and the governor was not able to join us today. She's president of the board. She's not able to be here, so Dr. Richardson's obviously presiding in her place. So, board members, any questions for these students? Or
I would like for them to introduce themselves. They're so important. I want to hear their name.
All right, I'm Laura Lee Farmer from Auburn High School, and I'm a senior.
I'm Cannon Early. I'm the Tallahassee FFA president from Tallahassee High School.
My name is Jacob Billingham. I'm the reporter for the Tallahassee FFA.
My name is Hunter Griffith. I am the signal of the Tallahassee FFA.
Hey, my name is Danielle Bird. I'm in the FFA quartet and I'm a junior.
I'm Cole Ingram. I'm also in the FFA quartet and I'm the choir president and band captain of our school.
I'm Brandon Slaughter. I am also a part of the FFA quartet. I sing bass and I was also drum major for our marching band.
Oh, nice.
I'm Sarah Jane Patterson, and I'm in FFA quartet, and I'm a sophomore.
Very nice.
Thank you for coming. Y'all are beautiful.
If I could comment too, speaking, it sounds like we have a couple people that are involved with the Tallahassee High School marching band. It's an outstanding marching band at Tallahassee High School, and to be the drum major there, that is a big deal. I mean, it's a very large, competitive band, so congratulations on that as well. So that's amazing that you can be that involved in your FFA and in the band as well, because that's a pretty demanding schedule, so congratulations on that.
Have you figured out your future course, where you're headed next? What's your next step out, especially the seniors? Where are y'all going?
They're all going to open.
They are not. But I would love to hear.
start over here.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your plans. You're a senior.
Yes, I'm planning on attending University of North Alabama. I'm going to pursue nursing, and then I'm thinking about travel nursing once I graduate from there.
Yeah.
Once I want to settle down, then I'll pick a spot that I absolutely love. So.
Good idea.
I plan on attending Auburn University, and I'm going to be an agriculture teacher and going into education.
Great.
So I'm going to Southern Union for 2 years.
Okay.
And then we'll transfer to Auburn University.
Now,
I have no idea what I want to do.
Plenty of time to figure that out.
I'm going to Mississippi State University.
Oh, good.
To pursue ag education.
Excellent.
But
come
it's
back.
a great idea.
Don't stay.
I'm also going to Southern Union for 2 years and then I plan on transferring to University of North Alabama on a computer science degree.
Great.
I'm thinking of going to Troy University and I'm planning on maybe going to Troy University and pursuing graphic design and music.
So if you're not a senior, tell us what grade you're in.
I'm a junior.
Right.
I'm planning on going to Southern Union for 1 or 2 years and then transferring to Auburn to pursue banking and finance.
Oh, very good. Talk to him.
Yes, we need to talk.
I mean, I have a while, but
Never too early.
I would like to go to Troy University, and I want to pursue like performing in dance. That's what I like to do. So.
Good for you. All right, now y'all have to keep up with what you're doing and send us cards and correspondence. Let us know how you're doing.
Does anybody know who's stationed by the plow? I had to think about that for a minute. Do y'all do the opening ceremony still? Stationed by the plow, stationed by the rising sun,
It's just been a while since.
stationed by the unicorn. President, who has the least to say? Madam President, because our vice president has to do her part, so I can do that. That was good.
How do you know so much
Long
about
time
FFA?
I got a blue jacket just like that. I can still wear it too.
Actually, I've been FFA with the band from Goshen High School years ago, but you really define what career tech is, and you break the mold, and you represent all of us so well. And I'm talking a lot, but I have such an appreciation for what you all do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank y'all very much.
Since Dr. Mackey said that, I'll have, some of y'all have told this, but in 1974, I was FFA sweetheart at Hamilton High School. And I still have my jacket. No, my jacket
You
is
get a blue
like this.
jacket?
It has my name on it. Don't ask me to zip it. But I can get it.
Now, getting it off is a little different.
As a quartet member, how often do y'all practice? Because you all were awesome.
Awesome.
To be honest,
He's laughing in the background.
we started practicing
Last week.
this week.
Oh, wonderful.
There's some talent.
Just put it together.
Oh, wonderful.
We,
Obviously, that's not the first time you've sung in public.
No.
we are all very heavily music influenced. Like all of us, music has been surrounded in like our lives since we've been in high school. And so we've always been able to just pick up really fast and go with it. And Jerry Cunningham, our leader, is he's very aware of that. So he puts a lot of faith into us, and and we take that and we go with it.
Great.
So,
Thank you all so much.
Well, I have to,
Mr. Cunningham, so he is a retired educator from Tallahassee High School. He has a banner, I'm the ag teacher. He has a banner in the upper right corner of my classroom from 1974, first FFA quartet. And it has been since that that he has volunteered, continues to this day to volunteer to train.
Anybody else?
well, I did want to ask one more question because this information was shared with me. You mentioned the band program and of course the music with FFA, but how many young people, how many students are involved in both those programs? You have a very large band, but you also have a very large choral program too.
I'll get from behind the door.
Yep, come on. Shouldn't push the door.
And the FFA program,
We're a 5A school, but we have around 500 students enrolled in school, and we have around 220 involved in the choir classes, and we have, between the middle school and the high school, about 150 to 160 band students. So the music is the largest activity at our school.
wow.
It's beautiful too.
Yes.
We were up there, he was reminding me, when I was up there before, they did Shenandoah, and it's a remarkable music program.
We got lucky on that one because we found out the day before, they said, Dr. Mackey's coming, he wants y'all to sing. We're like, what did we know last year? So we did Shenandoah, and he said, it's my favorite song. We're like,
Yes. Somebody's doing some style work. How's the new high school coming along?
Slow and steady. I look at it every day.
Y'all do realize the group Alabama started out as an FFA band. For those of you that may not be familiar with it, so sometimes you can make a lot of money out of FFA. Right, Ms. McCarthy?
Yes. And I would encourage y'all too, when you go to college, think about the band, think about chorus and choir and those sorts of programs, because yes, your academic classes are very important, right? But also the camaraderie and the friendship that you'll gain by being in a group like that, I think will bring you a lot of joy. And it's a stress reliever too.
And you did that.
And I did that. So in symphonic band for 4 years and also in a jazz band for a few years. So while I was in college. So
I played the radio.
So we have, in a couple of weeks, I'll mention our HOSA State Conference is in Montgomery. If anyone is interested, I believe February 24th-ish. Yeah, February 24, 25. It's really large. I would say close to 1,800 students and teachers will attend that for a couple of days. Huge event, very strong. FFA conference is a little later in the school year. I believe the state conference is actually in the summertime, if I'm getting my schedule correct. Yeah, and so it's probably our largest state conference. And just to give you an idea of the size, someone was speaking about numbers. I was at the national FFA conference this past fall, and there were like 70,000 there. It's the second largest convention in North America behind the Republican National Convention in terms of attendees. I mean, it's huge. They took over the whole Lucas Oil Stadium, was filled with those Blue Jackets and advisors. So it's a massive group. It's hosted a massive group. It really helps us drive our programs and create opportunities for students to find the talents.
And it's a lot of fun to attend.
That's
It
right.
really is. The opening ceremony, just all of it, but it's a great organization.
A lot of
with
smart people.
Great young people, yeah,
Yeah.
great students,
Very intelligent.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Y'all make them buy you lunch before you go back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much for being so bad. Thank you, good luck.
Dr. Mackey, I'm going to head up to watch from my office unless there are any
Okay,
questions
no,
for me.
we're good. Thank you very much.
I'll be on standby if you need.
So we do have, most of our staff, we're doing the same thing we did before. Most people are watching from upstairs in our offices. And for a while at least, we're just gonna keep that up so we don't crowd everything here. In fact, I told people, several people said last month, they said I listened, and when my part came up, I could get downstairs, but I could get so much done upstairs too. And I said, yeah, don't feel obligated to be here for the whole meeting. That's one of the ways we use technology. So, we may continue that some. We do have a couple of quick updates. These are things that board members have asked us about. So back in, maybe in November or December, y'all asked about intervention support. Like, what are we doing around school attendance, around climate, culture, and those kind of things? It has nothing to do with Dr. Lewis's presentation coming up, but there was. We've seen a lot about that. There was a really big article in this week's Montgomery paper about some things they're doing in Selma because they had fights, and they're kind of rethinking the way they do administration around that. And they've seen their fights go way down. So it's looks like a great program, and I've got to get, Dr. Chestnut may know more about it. But there is a lot we're doing to support schools around school climate, culture, attendance, and those kind of things. So Dr. Marilyn Lewis, who leads prevention support for us, and Terry Roller, who was just here a second ago. So Terry's our assistant superintendent over that district support section. Dr. Lewis works in his area, but she's been here. She's the dean around here. She's been here quite a while, does great work. And so she's just got a little presentation for you and to answer questions too that you might have around that. We put it off 3 times because we had partially it's because of COVID issues and other things that have happened. So I'm going to turn it over to her. Let her take over.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. When we look at classroom disruptions, our classrooms can look very much like what's in this PowerPoint on the screen if we don't have the appropriate supports in place. So we know we've been dealing over 2 years with COVID-19 and its derivatives. So much more than just instruction has been impacted by COVID. We have lost some time with therapy, mental health therapy sessions for our students. We have the safe haven of the classroom from maltreatment at home and in communities. They have not been there as students leave school. And then, of course, routines and structure has been ruined. However, as we build resilience with our students and their parents and connect students and families to the community supports, we're able to mitigate some of those adverse problems that have occurred due to COVID. One of the things that is most important at this time, more than any other time, is for us to know our students. If we know our students, we are able to reduce some of the disruptions. We're able to build a culture within our classrooms that will be supportive of student learning, as well as respect for our students. We are able to build relationships in 10 minutes with students, and what those relationships are able to do is allow teachers to have the confidence in correcting misbehavior in private settings. If we know our students, then we are able to see and recognize the onset of changes that happen in their emotional well-being. Many of our students are able to mask their feelings and any trauma that exists in their lives. So some of the professional development that the Department of Education is able to offer to our classroom teachers is discipline with dignity for disruptive youth. We have youth mental health first aid. This is an adult-based program where adults are able to learn about the signs and symptoms of those things that are happening based on the mental health of the students that they serve. Our most recent trainings was January the 11th with Wilcox County Schools. We had one on February the 1st with Alexander City Schools, and we have scheduled between March and May trainings for Scottsboro City, for even Alabama Connections Academy out of Athens, and then also Huntsville City Schools. We have teen mental health first aid. Schools have to identify themselves as teen mental health first aid sites. We have those locations in Conecuh County Schools and Monroe County Schools. We also have comprehensive integrated 3-tier model of intervention. This is a federal grant through SAMHSA that we have, and school systems that participate within that program is Homewood City, Conecuh County, Jackson County, Alabaster City, Coosa County, Pale City, Tarrant City, Chambers County, Greene County, and Bullock County. So as teachers take on the onus and the responsibility of supporting children, they themselves will need to be retooled and refreshed. And one way for them to do that is with a self-care plan. If you utilize the QR code that is on this screen, it gives you a survey that allows you to identify those areas of personal concern. But once I know my areas that I need to focus attention on, how do I get the actual development for that? So with the Department of Education, we do offer self-care trainings. A couple of those trainings are understanding educator resilience and developing a self-care plan. This is a federal U.S. Department of Education training through their RIMS TA Center, for which we coordinate with the Department of Education to develop those trainings. We have had one just before Christmas, and we have one that is scheduled for February the 24th. And then also we have mental health first aid, which is an adult training that is geared for peer-to-peer relationship and development. We have provided for you on the left side of your packet some materials because the conversation that was shared with me was our classroom teachers are asking about the disruptions within there. We've given you a toolkit that you can share with your teachers and with schools. It speaks to some of the different behaviors that you may see displayed by students that may be pronounced because of COVID. However, we don't just leave you with some of the signs that you may see of the students. We also give a little research that's centered around why we're seeing it and why we're seeing it so much more often and frequent and by more students. And then we give some strategies to support those classroom teachers in those efforts. Do we have any questions?
The work that you are doing, are you relating it, or are the school systems or LEAs that are seeking this training, are they working with their board in terms of a discipline plan, an overall discipline plan for their districts?
Absolutely, yes ma'am. A part of all planning that occurs at the school district level, one of those components deals with discipline or the behaviors, culture, and as a result, one of the items, the resources that we're actually using to have these trainings It was issued to us from the legislature. So we're utilizing those resources, especially with our youth mental health first aid trainings. And that is one item that we share monthly in our newsletter, and that's how we're actually getting school districts to contact us wanting these trainings, so we're able to schedule those ways. And then also, one thing I did not share, we have trained the trainer training, so that what we're trying to do is strategically put individuals in school districts around the state to support their school district, but also help school systems around them with youth mental health first aid training. We just conducted one at the end of January, and that was in the Decatur City area. We have one scheduled in March for Homewood City, the Birmingham area, and then in June, we will have one in the Baldwin County area. So not only are we delivering this training, but we're also preparing educators in school districts to support around the state.
So this is, as probably all of us, when we receive correspondence, be it by phone or whatever, a lot of it, they ask different issues, and one of them is the discipline and disruption. Is something of this nature going to be discussed at the mega conference?
Yes, ma'am. We will have the youth mental health first aid training as we offered it last year.
Right.
We have already entered it into the presenters portal
Again,
for this
good.
year. Yes,
Good.
ma'am.
And Dr. Mackey Board and Dr. Marilyn Lewis, outstanding job as usual. Good job.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. The team are always on top of it. Just want to remind you that prevention and support is the student services division in your LEAs. So they work very closely with student services. And so that's attendance, discipline, all of those things that you're talking about, mental health. They group all of those services together. So a lot of times the teachers and the local folks that are coming to you are not going through that area, right? Because those are the ones that are keepers and house that information. That's how we best serve, is going through those divisions, and then they break it down to the schools and then ultimately the classrooms. And so we always encourage them to make sure that you reach out to your student services director, because that's the direct point of contact for Dr. Lewis in prevention and support. Just to kind of give you an idea of what they do, they're out in the field weekly. They do safety, they do it regionally, they do it with the EMAs, they partner with them. But this mental health first aid and the CI3T, those are things that they're doing all over the state all the time. So these things are occurring, but if they're not looking through the right division within their local school district, they'll miss some of that information coming out. So it's always a good, recommendation to send them back through student services, because they're the keepers of prevention and supports rollout. Dr. Mackey?
This is great. This is fantastic. When you list the number of contact situations, you cannot help but be impressed at the numbers of projects and the diversity of the projects. From, I was former superintendent in Tarrant, and you've got several places in my current district. But it's an admirable thing, because the thing that gets pressed is any negative instance in any schools. And those that have been in public leadership know that makes the press. But the effort to maintain quality mental health and compliance with students with teachers is a major project. And I can't tell you how important that is, and how much, as a board member and an educator and parent and grandparent, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you very much.
And I have one more comment. The other thing I noticed when I was the school level principal, that if our kids are learning and they feel good about their learning and they're learning at their potential, a lot of your discipline is diminished, because as you well know, there's kids that will act out to get kicked out of the room, so that nobody knows they're not adequately prepared to answer the questions or do the topic of the day. So we must continue to strive to hit this academic along with this, and by working together, the higher academics and reaching their potential will diminish a lot. And I'm not talking about the breakdown of men, I'm talking about disciplinary actions.
And
Yeah, okay, yes.
did you want to go?
No, I'll go ahead and go.
It's not that big deal. Can you also, and I appreciate the hard copies, because this is helpful to me, and I can write down notes and so forth, and I'll keep it handy. But can you also send an email that includes an attachment with just to have, because I'll file it as well. So
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
have it, so in case I lose this. But the other part is what I'm finding with both teachers who call me, and I've even had a situation, and it was a number of years ago, where a teacher in Birmingham City Schools called me. She was originally from Montgomery, and then her mother called me. Ultimately, they ended up having to transfer her because her life was literally threatened. I've had teachers in some of the schools in my district, and I have some excellent schools, so many of them are not. It's always the exception. But when there is an exception, it seems to be a pretty large number of cases, situations where teachers would just end up just standing outside their doors because they could be and would be tripped potentially as classes were changing. And I know some of the schools solved that problem at different times by just not changing classes as often, or figuring out a way to monitor those students that they had keyed in on, and they would figure that out. But it has become in some areas a very big problem. It's not as simple, and I think a lot of the teachers, or a lot of potential teachers, are not getting into the profession. A lot of the teachers are leaving because of the disruptions that are not easily solved. I know when I've had a call from both a teacher and then a parent, I get even more parent calls. Usually I'll suggest going through the channels, I'll ask, and if they have not, then they'll call. If they have, it usually helps to be able to, I always say, just tell them you talked with me, and that seems to help. And that contact, unfortunately, seems to be the key in some of the cases. So if you can let the locals know, I love my telephone calls, but I don't love to hear the kind of situations that I'm hearing about. I need to have that information because I can share it in situations like now. It's not rosy in a lot of those schools, and you know.
Absolutely.
You know better than I do. And you can probably, on a map, pick out the areas that are, I hate to use the term, worst offenders. But these are potentially serious situations where parents are pulling their children out of school because they've literally been threatened. Where people with other children, young people, whatever you want, fellow students have said that they'd rather see the child dead. And it's just very hateful. And so a lot of that is not as easy as reading this. And I know that you have those areas targeted. But they're pretty serious situations, and it's not just happening in Alabama.
We do, and we have some professional development for our administrators, which offers them the professional learning unit. We actually have a book study that's titled Brick House Strong. And within that professional learning, what happens is we've titled it Shifting the Atmosphere, so that we have opportunities to work with. And of course, we go where we are asked to come. So we would definitely be willing to engage and bring that professional learning so our administrators get on board. We have CEU credits for the other educators in the building. So there are some things we could definitely work intentionally to support schools. We will go anywhere we're asked.
I just feel like that this whole conversation though has to come full circle back to that local Board of Education and what they will and will not tolerate in their buildings. I think it's not only a matter of professional development and discipline, but it's a matter of leadership.
Tough. Being tough.
It is. And as a local school board member, I was fortunate enough to come from roots that were very strong in terms of a plan of discipline for every building, support for every teacher, support from the principal, assistant principal, but support from the board table. And I think if local school boards don't take a very strong step in this direction, we're gonna continue to see issues. I applaud everything that you are doing. I do, but I think that there needs to be an establishment from the beginning, some sort of code of conduct for every school system so that they can share that with parents on the front end, have agreement from students. And I think when we have agreement before we have issues, then it becomes easier to mitigate those issues. Rather than be reactive, be proactive.
Well, we have a requirement for the locals to have, and that goes way back.
Absolutely.
We did that long ago.
And we do review those
Yes, ma'am.
documents.
Yes, ma'am. It's just so unacceptable to have any professional person have any sort of fear in doing their job day in and day out. And it's unacceptable for children that want to be there to learn to have be interrupted from their studies. And that's all I'm going to say about that. It's probably one of the most important things to me personally as a board member is that we see discipline in our classroom so that our children can learn.
When you review those plans, how do you send them back if you think that they're too weak? And if you know those areas where we have some real problems, how do you address those plans?
So through our school safety process, we review the plans, we review the safety mechanisms and their procedures for safety violations. And yes, we do make recommendations on updates that need to occur based on Alabama law as well as best practices.
And do you also, I know that some of the schools, this is what I'm hearing from both teachers and parents, do not report everything because they don't want the numbers to look bad. Which we need to encourage, them, that it's not a bad thing. If you're reporting something that's happening, usually that's the best way, the first step in trying to take care of the problem.
So what I will say is I hear that is happening, and we do have we have 3 professional trainings per semester with safety coordinators where within that time frame, we do speak to reporting offenses. Sometimes we hear from a news reporter that something has transpired, and then we contact that school district so that we can make those things be right. So as we learn, we do engage.
I know we have intervention for safety issues, Dr. Mackey. Do we ever utilize that, the safety intervention? Because we have that authority as a state school board. And it seems like this would be one way that we could ultimately address it. We have that authority, why not use it? You have the tools and you know exactly where to target. You hear it before any of us probably. But there seems to be a disconnect between what we can do. It's great to have the programs, but I think the fact that you would be on notice, not just on notice, but there would be that intervention, we had to do that. I know we did it in Talladega County when a young man was shot and killed in the parking lot after that law was passed, and we used it. And it was before.
Took over the Talladega County School Board?
No, I'm just saying in general, we have an intervention law. And one part of that deals with safety.
Yeah.
And we have used it before your time, when you were back, probably still in
I
classroom.
mean, you can take over a school board based on lack of safety.
Yeah.
If you've got a board that you think, if y'all know of a board that you think we need to take over the district because of safety. Now, I've not heard of
But
it
you're the one in
being,
charge, so you would be the one taking that. We can tell you, but
I
until
don't
you
know
do
of
it.
a board that I think it's
Yeah.
built to that point that we want to move the local board aside. Mostly we hear, I think it's particular classrooms, obviously dealing with principals, but I don't think, Dr. Lewis, I don't know that we have a board that, I don't think we do that doesn't have
It's not taking over a
a.
board, but we have the authority to intervene before we actually take it over. And that's a step that would be, I think, a good one to take. We have that authority, and you have that authority. but if we don't use it, then it's no good.
Dr. Mackey, I wanted to take a second to let Dr. Lewis tell you about the safety task force and how our teams work throughout the state, and kind of let you know how we're touching and influencing and supporting schools based on how the team is.
Mr. Roller, before you do that, I'd like to
Okay.
piggyback on Ms. Bell's excellent point. And you commented that you develop these programs based on invitation. And I think what Ms. Bell is saying, and I support, if there are instances involved, and doesn't involve taking over a school system, but if there are reported instances through whatever mechanism by parents or students or community leaders of disruptions or inappropriate behavior compliance, do we, through Dr. Mackey, have a mechanism to deal with that before it's out of the way, so that when it appears that a child has a weapon on campus? Actually, in one of my schools in Madison City, we had a child murder another child in the classroom. And there was a lot of involvement, community involvement and intervention. But after it happened, it's too late. So do you have, you talked about these programs on invitation only, but sometimes I think we have to be preemptive of problems. If we hear of a problem, if it's in the press or it's reported, do we have a mechanism where we go and deal with it?
Right. We have 7 individuals who are located regionally within our state. So a 7-member district, those individuals live and they work within those regions. And they travel too. So anyone on staff here in the office can communicate with a regional person if we are to hear something that happens safety related, mental health related, attendance, or we don't so much address our nurse service component. However, they can even reach out to do some preliminary work as it relates to medical concerns and then report back to our 2 nurses who are here in the room as well. But those 7 individuals are there to support schools, and they are a lot closer than going from Montgomery to anywhere other than this Tri-County area. So
we're not confusing, as sometimes on the national level, treatment of mental health with discipline. I don't mean to be old school, but I appreciate if you have a mental health problem, but I don't appreciate you beating up or shooting or disrupting on the school bus, and we have enough surveillance now to make it very clear of who did what.
Absolutely.
And safety, when as a parent, my number one concern about my children is that they be safe in that environment, because you can't learn if you're not safe.
Absolutely. And those 7
And we have an assertive program to deal with that.
Yes, sir.
And the public needs to understand it, and I'm sure we do.
Those 7 individuals have all been trained in youth mental health first aid as train the trainers. They make up actually some police officers who are current resource officers in schools. So we have those SROs who are part of that 7-member district, as well as previous central office safety coordinators.
You send me an email with those names.
That's what I was just gonna say. So if we come up with a situation that warrants our concern, we need to know who it is in our district that would be, as you say, why go to Montgomery if they're down in my area? So that would be very wonderful for their names and communication. So is that our line of methodology if we find out about something like that? Or do we?
Well, now we'd rather know here, and then Dr. Lewis will get them, because we just need to.
No,
Yeah,
I
you need
understand
to,
that
yeah. If there's a regional
But
person, and
sometimes
she
you
can get you the
talk to a
regional
regional
person.
if you have a concern or, a what ifs kind of thing. Okay.
I'd say just, if you let Mr. Markham know, or if you can't get him, go straight to Terry Roller. We'll make sure we get it. We do get, obviously we do get reports, and we have to get on those, and I'm not gonna call out any school districts, but we've forced our way into multiple school districts, not with the intention of setting the board aside and intervening and taking them over, but helping them. And Dr. Lewis and her team, they do a good job helping teachers. One of the issues I know we deal with is comes back to something I think, Ms. Bell may have said it or somebody else, but a lot of teachers who are not maybe good disciplinarians. And they don't want to report that to their principal. I've been a teacher, been a principal, and they don't.
Let me correct that, because what I'm referring to are people my size who are teachers. Or we'll say, somebody taller, Tracy's taller than I am. But it's not an issue of size or anything else, it's a lack of respect for authority. And that's something that you cannot, unless you enforce it, you can't smooth it away. And so I think we need to look at this very seriously. We're looking at trying to recruit people to go into teaching. There's the reason why you don't have a lot of people in some areas is because they're afraid. And I can tell you my alma mater, from Jeff Davis, the stories that I've heard from the teachers, one of the reasons why I ran for the school board. Shortly after I was elected, this young man was killed in the parking lot during summer school. He was trying to get some extra credits. Didn't even have to go to summer school. Across the street, I went to Danley. A sixth grader held the principal at gunpoint. And so that was where I went to school the very first day it opened. And so I see it I take it seriously. I have friends who are teachers who quit because they were tired of what they had to deal with. They couldn't teach. And unless we actually look at it and we understand the depth of the problem, I think that's what Tracy's trying to help. We have the tools to do something. We can help we can help with what they have. You can help. As state superintendent, you have the tools. When we have a very serious problem that's exposed, it's not saying anything negative about what they're doing because they need some assistance as well. The state superintendent has the authority to give a conditional warning. And the next step is to submit it to the state school board for intervention, just for safety issues. And it doesn't even have to be real serious, but in these cases, to help what they're doing, we need to be assisting them from this level as much as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Sometimes a threat, I never really had to discipline our girls because they referred to my eye. Just give them the eye, and that was enough.
We call it the look.
But the look, but they call it the eye. It's like,
Well, they do a really good job of helping. Sometimes those teachers don't want, they don't want to talk to their principal about what's happening in their classroom. But once it becomes aware, that's when we can get a team in. And then we get some reports, I guess, from principals who mostly calls and wants training. Did that come from the district or from the
parents? Yeah, it's true. Parents and teachers. They're almost afraid.
We've received it from all areas. So because we have an electronic tool that collects this information, we get it from teachers who want it for themselves and others. We have our school administrators and our district people all wanting. Normally when it's district, we go in and we train the entire school system. We have a training coming in Macon where all 175 employees will be in that training. So.
But I don't want us to confuse, like it can be on the national level, the emphasis on mental health and the insistence on discipline. And I think that's.
And you understand.
I'm generational. Of course, I told you I did
Yeah.
50 years in education, but in my family, there's zero tolerance for bullying, for misbehavior, and to see weapons in schools and number of instances, and I assure you, that makes national news, and that is one of our biggest issues in terms of our reputation, is the feeling, and all you have to have is the feeling, not the proof, that schools are not safe. And I assume that that's part of your role, and Dr. Mackey, your role too. And I assume that these people that are credentialed, and let's talk about teachers, but sometimes it's the principal who are gutless or less likely, I'm using improper terms, to enforce it. And if you have somebody that's credentialed as an administrator and in place as a principal, what is our potential role of going in and dealing with them directly, because they're credentialed, they're licensed by us, and in that role.
Well, if somebody violates the code of ethics, if they, as a principal, then obviously we can take away their certificates, and we do take away certificates.
And we need to be more assertive, and as old Barney said, let's nip it in the bud.
Nip it.
Oh, yes.
I want to
Right.
share something. As a retired teacher, your first line of defense are your teachers. Let me give you a little example. This was back in the 80s when I was teaching 7th and 8th grade. And I had some boys who were giving me fits. And they weren't usually rowdy, so I didn't really understand why. And I mean, they were being terrible. They were disrupting class. A fellow teacher of mine found a note in the hallway during recess and brought it to me. And the note said, if you don't get a paddling by Miss McRae by the end of the week, you will not be in our club. So when I read the note, I thanked her for it. I never said anything to the boys. I just paddled them. Let them go back in. There were no more paddling. Leave me alone. Didn't call the parents. Let them get in the club, and everything was okay. Okay, teachers who know their students and have good relationships and trust their students know most of the time what is going on in advance before something happens. So you can make all the rules you want, but students have a different world going in that school than we do, than teachers do. They have their own little world. And you have to have teachers they trust enough. Another example, one time my television kept coming on and off. On the way to lunch, a little girl came up to me and said, so-and-so has a universal remote. So I'm just like, you don't announce it, you don't call mom and daddy, you don't make a big deal out of it, you don't always send them to the principal. I mean, he was at lunch. I came back early. I opened his book bag. I got his remote out. I put it in.
You're in jail now.
This was the 80s. Put it in my desk, and when he starts looking around for it, I just hold it up.
I think I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce a former student in my school system, Dr. Katie Cole Kinney, who is Dean of Education at UNA. And Ms. Kinney knows what environment we live in Athens, right? Did we tolerate much messing around? And that's back when children could have their gun in the back of the car,
And I know it's changed since the 80s, but you
No,
still
Ms. Cole though, she doesn't mess around either, Dr. Cole.
still have to have good teachers who care about the kids and know the kids.
In line with that, 2 quick points. Relationships. My size, assistant principal in high school.
Yes.
I had informers. They would tell me when fights were gonna occur on the 3rd floor.
Yes.
How does she know? So I mean, relationships. But secondly, what I appreciate today, you talked about dignity with discipline. So that's difficult students. But then this guide you gave is classroom management. That's what we teach in our teacher education programs, that you have to be able to manage the classroom. Disruptive students, you talked about this in here. We talk about controlling students and angering violent students. All of that here. So I'm glad to know that what we're doing is best practices, because if a teacher goes out into a school district and classroom management is a problem, that school district has 3 years to continue to send that teacher back to us to help her improve her classroom management problem. Or him or her. So I just wanted to say thank you for this. And we are in line with what we're supposed to do, but we don't view it as discipline, but you put it into 3 categories. The mental health, discipline, but we teach management, which the 2 intertwine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, hold on. One quick question, well, 2. ask you something? Do you work closely with the Office of School Improvement? Because I know they're also in school.
Yes, we're all together as a team. As a matter of fact, we have a great rotation where we pull different areas from the department to support us at different times, whether it be special ed, prevention and support, whatever it may be. So we're all a team that works together.
Excellent. And then my next question, do you keep trend data? Because you might have like, an incident, but if you start seeing that the number of instances rapidly increases, for example, then you might want to give somebody a phone call, right? I mean, so do you keep trend data on particular schools?
Yes, every school and school district is required to submit their student incident report. So we utilize that trend data.
But somebody's monitoring that to see if there's an increase in incidences?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And encouraging that they actually do submit that.
Some-
not hold
right.
back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that it? Yes. You think? No, we're good. We do have our nurses in that same section.
Yes.
Miss Beatrice is another person who's gonna be retiring on us and is running for coroner in her home county, Pike County. This won't be a meeting, but she is leaving us this spring. And then LaBrenda Marshall is also one of our state school nurses, so they're with us today. Y'all have any questions about, or any updates on, I guess our dashboard's looking good this week as far as
Dashboard
it's
is
good
much
rolling.
better, and we're gonna do a rule change that's on the agenda in just a minute.
Is the current coroner in Pike County retiring?
Yes, sir.
You know, he's a lifelong friend of mine.
Is he really?
Yeah.
He's served our public very well. He's a fabulous guy.
I didn't know he was retiring, so I'll
Yes.
call him. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just about to say, also we have Dr. Paige Rainey from Spring Hill College, so I didn't know if we wanted
We
to
do.
introduce everybody before,
Okay, so we can do the colleges next if you want to, and then we'll finish up with Brandon Payne, and then if y'all wanna go to lunch.
It's introduced.
Or however, so we have, so item, look further down, we don't have a lot of business items coming up, but we do have a preparation program from Spring Hill College. Paige Rainey is fairly new there as the dean, the head of the School of Education. She was at Gunnersville City Schools. In fact, Dr.
Yes.
McCarthy was right there visiting. She was in Gunnersville.
with me.
Then she was I mean, really moved all across the state, but did a marvelous job when she was with us in K-12. We're excited about having her at Spring Hill. And then just to recognize, we do have Dr. Katie Kenny, who's the dean at UNA. And Dr. Kenny is also the president, I guess we'd say, of the Dean's Association, has been working with us.
Congratulations.
And as Dr. Meyer retires, she has been doing a marvelous job of collecting ideas and thoughts from the deans about that position and going forward. So we've not filled that position since 1973, so we're really thinking about how we might do some reorganizing, thinking around certification and preparation. So they've been great partners in that. And then, of course, Dr. Kimberly White, who's the dean at Jacksonville State. Those are all the higher ed folks that are here today. So, well, I'll turn it over to you. I was looking to see if I had any other higher ed people
Dean
with
White?
us. Dean White, I just said Dean White.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Dean White. But the only one that has item before you is
Are you
Dr.
ready for
Rainey.
me? Oh.
So we'll go ahead and go to your item. It's item
Sorry.
on the board. It's 3.
Item 3.
So it is a. No, you're fine. It's just one program. It's a Class B visual arts program that they are asking for us, the board, to extend approval next month. There are any questions about that, but you may have questions about other things. And then we'll also have our other 2 deans, if y'all have any questions for them before lunch. I know some of them have obligations this afternoon, so they're not going to be able to stay after lunch. So, Dr. Rainey?
Thank you. Look, I'm so pleased that you're going to consider our program for full approval. We have been in a probationary state for quite a bit of time, a couple of years, and so we are pleased to offer one of the few visual arts programs in the state. I don't know if you've been to Spring Hill College, Dr. Ziegler has, and we're neighbors. So we have an incredible facility there at Spring Hill that I'm so proud of. I teach the music class. I also teach art, but I'm a musician, really just.
So you must have loved the
hobby.
kids.
I loved it. I love every bit of that. But we have great campus partners and a wonderful facility to bring more students into this program. So every student should have an art teacher. In Gunnersville City, when I was there in K-12, we were here, Dr. Mackey came and Dr. McCarty came. We had best of show often. It was a pretty standard procedure to have that. And so art teachers and music teachers are dear to my heart. So just on a personal agenda item, if you will, I want to grow those people in our program. So it's a nice way to recruit students who want to be that kind of teacher, and there aren't enough of those people. And now that we have full approval on our agenda here, we hope that you'll consider that, because it's a real opportunity, I think, for to keep our teachers in our state. Great.
We love Spring Hill College, and I don't see any problem with approval.
I
And
love
we're
Spring
glad
Hill.
you came here, but what a beautiful site and scenic and.
Listen, the Avenue of the Oaks, if you have not been on the Avenue of the Oaks, you must come for
I
a
have.
visit. It is just extraordinary, and it's my first graduation, so I cannot wait to be there on the Avenue when we graduate teachers. I brought some good news to you. We have, teacher shortage is a real thing, and I left K-12 because I have one mission as just a teacher at heart, and that's to grow our profession. And I love to teach. I teach 2 classes of our undergraduate students and growing some graduate programs. But we don't have many kids who are majoring in education. But here's some good news. We have 11 students in my junior block. That's a very low number for us. But we have 24 freshmen who have decided. So we are already increasing. I tell them, go to the dorms, tell everybody to come be a teacher. And we're working to expand our networks. That is one good thing in being in K-12. I know a lot of school principals, and so I call them, and we've expanded our partnerships into Baldwin County. We had mostly been in Mobile. We even have interns now at Barton Academy, and which is a really wonderful school. Some places that we've never been in before. So Chickasaw City, we were working with them on some things. So it's just a great opportunity on the Gulf Coast, and it's beautiful all the time. It's really wonderful. But I was encouraged. Yes, I was encouraged with the numbers, and I wanted to share that. That's good news. Thank you.
Great.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think we have questions. Y'all are just
Okay, I
so
just wanted to
super.
brag on you.
I don't have
Thank
questions.
you. Good.
Everything else?
I don't know if you have questions for those other deans. If y'all don't have any questions for them, we do have, of course, Jennifer and LaBrenda are with us. So I know they probably don't want to come back after lunch. They have a code change, number 4, that's on on here. Number 5 I can handle, but if there are any questions about 4 while they're here, it deals with the end-of-life care stuff. Is that right? Maybe
No,
more
sir,
than that.
this is seizure.
Seizure.
This is seizure safe at school, and it sort of mirrors our diabetic law in that we as nurses can train unlicensed personnel to give emergency rescue medication, which is the nasal spray or nasal aerosol inhalant. That is in an auto injector. So, it's a quick little pump of the finger. A squirt goes in each nose and it stops the seizure. If y'all are familiar with the drug Versed or Nazodam and then diazepam, which is Valium. Versed and Valium is what is in those auto injectors. And we give that to seizure students. Now, typically, we've given that rectally as a drug called Distat. That is going away, praise the Lord, so we don't have But this is a new avenue, it's brand new, and it's easy for teachers and staff and coaches and things like that to help us to be able to be there when there may or may not be a nurse right there readily available. So this is a training that's been written by task force. It's over at the Board of Nursing being approved now, and once they approve it and we pass our our role, then we will be able to delegate that in the fall of 2023.
That's a good idea. Good
So
question.
very simple and a good program, and we need it. Because as you know, we can't be at every basketball, football, cheerleading.
Sometimes I like a little verse ed myself.
Yes, sir. But that's any questions that I might have answered.
So that'll come up next month also for announcing the intent to adopt. Anything from Dr. Kenny? You want to talk? Or any questions, Dr. You want to have anything you want to talk about, or Dr. White? Y'all come all the way down. We're welcome for you. Talk.
Dr. Kenny, you better speak up for UNA now.
Thank you.
I know Dr. White had two of you there, and Dr. Chestnut and Dr. McCarty were there earlier this week.
This week,
Or
Monday.
this week?
We got to spend Monday.
Now, are these school colors that they're wearing?
I think they are wearing.
I've been to both schools.
Yes, I can't wear without my purple on.
Yeah, give us an update on how maybe enrollment, how things are going, and any questions y'all have for us.
Thank you for allowing me to be able to address you again. I think the last time that I was here, I was being introduced as the new dean. I don't feel new anymore. I feel like I have, come back to a place that continues to be a really, really good fit for me. And thanks, Dr. Chestnut and Dr. McCarty, for spending Monday with us. We had a very, very good discussion, and I am sure that some of the ideas that we have for the board will be brought forward, and hopefully some of those changes can be seen and brought to fruition very, very soon. I'll just make a couple of comments. I was very, very impressed about the students. I'll just throw this plug in for our Marching Southerners, who are almost 500 strong. Wow. And they are the national award recipients of the John Philip Sousa Award for bands. And of those 500 plus students, there are 200 plus who are music education candidates. So we're very, very proud of that. We have 191 interns who will be converting to certified teachers. At the end of this semester, so we will be looking forward to those individuals going into several districts to help decrease that teacher shortage. And the last thing I'll say is that we are one of the 3 institutions that was approved to offer the fast track certificate for special education. Special education is one of my disciplines, and we're getting many, many calls about that program. So we're working to finalize all the details so that we can help to increase the number of highly qualified special education teachers who will be going into our school systems. And so those just brief updates from us.
And let me give an update on just piggyback off that. So we did have 3 institutions we announced last month that had stepped up immediately. JSU was first, JSU and Troy and UA, I think. But no, not UA. Since then, it's UAH. Since then, every institution of our public institutions, at least, they have all, which some of the private institutions have a more difficult time because they're smaller. But all of our public institutions, with the exception of 3, have now turned in their letters and said they want to offer the special education certificate. And of the 3, one of them, I won't say who they are, but one of them, the college president, called me and said, "Why are we not on the list?" And I said, "Because your dean hasn't turned a letter in yet and asked." But don't get upset at your dean. They've got a lot going on. So we've worked with them, and their letter is en route. And then the other 2, we don't know for sure if they're going to offer it or not. But most of them are going to.
Well, thank y'all for the opportunity. As Dr. Reynolds hinted, I am a product of Alabama Public Schools. Very proud.
Absolutely.
Very proud graduate of Athens City Schools. I attended Calhoun and Athens State and the University of Alabama, and now I have the pleasure and the honor of serving as the Dean of UNA. So I'm very invested in public schools. My children go to Muscle Shoals City Schools. And so one thing that I would say that has really meant a lot to me lately is just the importance of the collaboration with all of us. So that's why I don't want it to be a surprise that a dean shows up. I mean, that this is our work. Your work is our work, and our work is your work. So
We definitely want to be a part of the solution. As Dr. Mackey said, the new five-course bundle with special ed for 612 is something that, it's a creative opportunity. It's a temporary solution, and we really want more of those. That's what I'm hearing from my colleagues across the state. We want those opportunities to be creative. So help us help you innovate. And we, like I said, we're invested. Our children go here. We're products of Alabama Public Schools, so we want to reinvest for sure.
And you graduated with my daughter.
Absolutely. Class of 93.
Makes me older.
I just have one more thing. As I was listening to Dr. Lewis talk, I wrote down your information. One of the things I was thinking is that what a way to be able to support our pre-service teachers would be for us to be able to invite you all in and to have some of that training early, so that when they transition to the school system, they're already prepared. And so I will hope that you can have some resources to be able to provide for all of our institutions.
And that's what I was hinting towards.
That's fabulous. Well, and Dean
That's
White,
great.
are you starting a math specialist degree?
Yes, ma'am. We're looking at that. We're looking at several programs, especially to address many of the bills that are coming out. So therefore, as you all release information, we're looking for ways to quickly respond and be able to, again, as pre-service teachers or our master's level student teachers, be able to respond appropriately to those things.
Thank you, that was wonderful. We always love good notes like that.
Oh, yeah.
Happy numbers.
Is there anything else we can do before lunch?
Well, Dr. Payne, yes, has a,
Thank you.
y'all are at,
Thank you.
thank you, ladies.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Payne, y'all, you know Brandon Payne, who's our assistant superintendent, but serving as interim deputy and doing a fantastic job, has just done so much in helping us with internal reorganization at the department. And we had a question when we were having the retreat earlier about what we've done. Our HR section's completely reorganized, and we have a new procedures manual and those kind of things. But I won't give his presentation, but he was planning on coming, and he sent you just a one-pager in the packet, just to answer some questions about that. And of course, you may not, if there are more questions anytime, he's glad to answer those, but just let him, you got,
Where is it?
It was in
the side or?
That'd be there, I thought.
Should be right behind
should be right here.
presentation.
It's under there.
It sort of was right behind Dr.
Right in front of tab 2.
Yeah, that's right.
So, turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So, Dr. Mackey had shared the questions and things that you all had asked over a period of time there with us, and wanted us to give an update, kind of where we are in relation to the personnel section and that governance of the department. And so I provided you the one-pager to do that from that standpoint, and I'll be glad to kind of walk through that, but more importantly, to answer questions or listen to any feedback you all may have as our board and what we can do there. So first and foremost, most of you probably knew, or at least it was recognized at the time, in about May of last year, longtime HR Director Brenda Cooley had retired from here. And so I served as an interim of that over the summertime because we had selected a candidate that was working at the AG's office at the time. And so Ms. Terry Morgan joined us September 1st and has done an absolute outstanding job in her role in that regard for us, both with her background in legal and then her background as a public educator. She was a longtime educator in Decatur City Schools before going into private practice as an attorney and then coming back into state work about 2 years ago. Since then, we've also hired a personnel training specialist. This is the first time the department has had a dedicated training specialist in about 7 years, which was a sore missing part for us in the professionalism and skill sets of our individuals. You can imagine what technology and other things have grown since then. So as a part of that work, and it's later in the document you'll see there, but we're going to launch a full-blown Microsoft 365 Applications Academy for all of our employees to ensure that they have the most up-to-date knowledge on how to use the tool sets that we've provided for them through our IT division in terms of efficiency, productivity, anything from Excel to Word to Teams management to database management and those things. So that's part of her work. Ms. Layla Golette had joined us there in the 1st of February. She'll be heading that up for us. She's also going to be heading up our training that's required by state personnel for our leadership teams members to be able to complete every 3 years. It's a requirement from state personnel that they do that. And that had fallen to the wayside at some point in time, but we've picked that back up. It was individual. We're going to make it more collective now where people do it together. So we have collaboration in that way and do that in a more effective manner. And then beyond that, some of the big things that we've done that I think are really going to move our department forward, both in terms of recruitment and retention of high quality people to work here in the department to serve your mission in all of the schools in Alabama, is really the way in which we efficiently manage our paper and those things for our department and our folks. I greatly appreciate today what you did in adopting the final rule for our electronic statement to update that language so that that coincides with what we're doing with other state agencies and those things. And so as part of that though, our hiring process for requesting to fill positions and or promotions and transfers and things of that nature is all going electronic. Then our onboarding for new employees coming into the department will be electronic up into including their payroll and tax information. They'll be able to do that before they get here instead of having to spend half of the day or better in that training session to do paperwork. We want them to be trained on the things that are important within their section and important to the department and the agency as a whole. And so we want to offset that burden of paperwork by allowing them to have the time to do that reflectively before they arrive. Also with their own personal settings of taxes and things of that nature that they need to do, that they need other resources for. So that'll happen. We're going to also have a personnel activity dashboard that will be managed through Ms. Morgan and our HR section, where they'll be able to keep up with the currency of any employee that we have, their position, their location, what's going on with them. And in regard to that, one of the things Ms. Morgan has brought to us in her time here is that last bullet down before you get to department efficiency activities is implementing Everbridge application. And seems to be an odd name, but really what that's going to do for us is provide, along with the renovations that are occurring to the Gordon Persons building, we're going to have an application that is web-based, it's app-based for phones that will provide safety and security of all of our employees. So as they enter the building, as they walk from the parking lots, as they move around, it's got geofencing and some other things in there that they can elect to get into if they want to for their safety and security. It could automatically locate them, know where they are if they're in a state of emergency or if they have a health issue, any of those things. And then also if we're having to evacuate the building, as they tested the fire alarm multiple times today, we can know by zone and section where our individuals are, that we've accounted for everybody, that we're safe. We can know, if they were out in the field today working on something and they're not in the building and we have to evacuate, we know that we're accounting for them without that happening. One of the other add-ons of Everbridge that will be really beneficial to us, and I know this kind of goes into my assistant role with school facilities and some of those things where we've had weather issues and I've had to go on site to represent Dr. Mack and you as a board to help the school systems recover from that. Everbridge has a dedicated ability to conference call without having to set up anything, without having to do anything, and it's a different, unique kind of alert, and so we can have groups in that. So myself, Dr. Mackey, other Mr. Roller, people that are out helping with those situations when they occur, it's a one-touch button and you automatically have everybody joined. So you can communicate in real time in a quick and efficient manner with this tool to be able to get the resources to schools and others that we need. So we're really looking forward to having that in. We've gone through the onboarding training. We're setting that up for everybody, and that's forthcoming in that one. So that's kind of the HR things we've done. Other than that, obviously we've adopted the DocuSign platform for contracts, memos, agreements, those things. And universities and others that we work with has just been tremendous. They love the speed and efficiency of it, the ability to move forward without having to wait weeks or to mail it back to us in duplicate copy. Sometimes when you have to make 5 copies of something and send it back because Dr. Mackey had to sign it 5 times, it just takes time. And this makes this where it's a very efficient flow, and we can get that process for people so that the work can go forward. So we've got that going on, and then we have another platform. It's called Perfect Forms that allows us to electronically catch registrations, other activities, data surveys, things of that nature. I know our Alabama Reading Initiative group section has been using that heavily with the implementation of the Literacy Act and how they're collecting the evidence and those things that they need from that. So it's been a very good resource, and I'm actually meeting with them again this afternoon. They've got more that they want to do with it. So fortunately for me, they offered to have somebody be trained in it so they could start doing their own instead of coming to me. And I graciously accepted the offer to meet with them and share how we can get them trained. Be glad to answer questions. Those were just some of the updates and pertinent information related to personnel and or efficiency. But if you've got something, I'd be more than happy to.
I assume it goes unsaid that database security is part of our implementation of all these programs.
I would say that our database security is probably at the level of.
That's always the question that comes up.
It's at least at the middle level of the U.S. military. You will not get in our environment. It took about 4 months to vet the DocuSign platform, which is already approved by the Department of Defense. It took 4 months internal for us to vet that because of the way that we do our security here. So yes, I was belabored by the fact that, DOD has approved this for federal contracts for defense people. But I applaud our IT folks for that. They are absolutely going to make sure our stuff is secure.
And I think the staff monitoring is great. My daughter monitors everywhere I am all the time.
To say that now, we allow our folks, they can opt into that. We're not.
I know.
We're not putting a beacon on them to find them wherever they are. It's for their. But we have unfortunately, I know this has been something that's big for Dr. Mackey and that, and he and I have talked about this, and I've talked to construction management. This is about parking for our employees, and we have so many that have to walk from the Crampton Bowl. And and you take that in the winter months when it's dark, when some get here, it's dark when they leave. It is a great application for security. We can tie that directly into our building security, and to the troopers that serve Gordon Persons and those things. So, it will be a good tool for that.
It's fantastic.
Do you have cross training? Is that a part of the HR plan? Just because I know in the past sometimes if somebody was out, then things were delayed. And so are we working on trying to train more people to do multiple things so that if one is out for a while, somebody else can step in and do their duties?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that's a part, especially with our specialists and our administrative assistants and that level of people that do the day-to-day work of those things. It's kind of twofold. We're going to cross-train those with the Microsoft Academy, where they understand and they'll be able to do the different parts, because sometimes someone was identified by their own unique skill set to be the person that can do spreadsheets. Somebody else is the one who can write the letters, and so we've got to have that skill set brought up. So there will be collaboration in that, and then across departments with our leadership trainings with both state required personnel things, and then the other things that we intend to train on our section leaders for efficiency and process improvement. We're really going to cross-train a lot in that, not necessarily on content, but on delivery of services and how we do those things, so that we raise the level of that from a professionalism and a timely and accurate manner. But yes, there's a good share of cross-training in that for everybody.
Good. That's good. It's good to know that you have the walls that you've built to protect a lot of the data that we have. I have a brother who he does a lot of that, and he said that students are gifted in breaking through.
They are.
And early on, and the other board members, now Dr. Meyer will know this story, and some of the others who've been around, but early on, the board members were really well conditioned because somebody took our heads and put new bodies on them.
Right.
So they have the website. I don't know if you remember. Anyway, that was actually out there in the news.
They would help me out.
And, yeah, I didn't have a problem with it, but anyway, but that was actually an example of some gifted technology.
Devious.
Yeah.
Some of our brightest IT personnel are those students sitting in the classroom.
Yes.
They are. And as a former high school principal, I can attest to the things they are gifted at doing when it comes to technology.
So that's a good thing.
Grandchildren will help me out.
Absolutely, they can do it. So, anything else I can help with, I'll be glad to answer or do. I know I'm probably sitting between you and lunch, so that's the best place. put them in any of the training
We
sessions, right?
because that's quick.
That's cool.
I will say, in defense of Brandon, he has done a great job with the DocuSign, and that has really, you talk about, folks having to telework and everything else, that has sped up our processes. I mean, it is like night and day. I mean, it's a watershed moment for us as far as productivity with the amount of
Oh, you said.
For years.
So 5.
I'm going to decide.
So if we want to do 5, and then after lunch, we'll just come back and do board questions. So number 5 is another change to the administrative code.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Another one that is, it's in reference to, this is a completely new section of code, it's not amended.
The extended learning
Right, this is another one we're doing, the legislature is passed a law last year saying the board would have a state policy on extended learning opportunities. And so this is what it is, and we're doing, and we'll announce the intent to adopt it next month, obviously, and then go forward. The big thing is what this law legislature passed said is that private organizations, and it lays out what some of them can be, can offer credit-bearing electives. So they can, I guess I shouldn't pick out an organization, but we've talked to some of these organizations. So like a community-based youth program, and they want to do a course in, the example I had yesterday was fencing. So most of our schools don't offer fencing. It is not something that, not building fence, fighting little swords, yes, sir. So if you had a community organization and they wanted to offer fencing, and the local school board wanted to give students credit, an elective credit for taking that course, then they could do that. Now, we're not requiring, just understand, as you read this, we're not requiring local school boards to have to do credit for fencing. But this is a state policy that lays out the parameters around those. There's a little bit of controversy because some of the organizations want to like get a state stamp of approval, and then we tell local school boards, you have to let this organization come and do, offer credit in your school district. I don't think we want to do that. I think we want to set the parameters, but then they need to work with their local school board on the specifics of that, because it's very hard to have a statewide program and say this model is going to work in every district across the state, but there's no state control of the program. It's being run by a church or a nonprofit group. So what we have kind of come down to is if they get in 50% of the districts offering their fencing program, or whatever the program is, then we would consider giving them a stamp of approval that would not tell the other 50% of the districts they have to take them, but would say, hey, half the school districts in the state they have an agreement with this program, they're offering credit, and so we at the state level are going to vet it, and if they want to push out to other states, we'll have kind of a certificate of approval from the department. It would, otherwise we could be inundated with, 300 programs that are not, that all want a statewide stamp of approval, but it's very hard to do that. So that's the only thing. Some of the organizations have asked us about a statewide, so they don't have to go to each local board and make an agreement. I have real concerns about that. So what we have here is a model policy that's required by the law, says we'll do a model policy, but then it basically says that they will go to their local school districts to work out a deal.
Dr. Mackey, would the instructor be required to go through a background check?
I think so.
It doesn't say that.
But if they work in the
Dr. Mackey, it doesn't say that there has to be equal opportunity compliance with all these ELOs. And I think the thing about the background check and that security and that they have to be equal opportunity compliance should be part of any policy we adopt.
Yeah, because it's the background check required by law, as you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And it wouldn't hurt to
Yeah.
put it in
And
there.
it's probably in here, but I just didn't see it.
But it's in the law.
Is the
So I
background check
guess
in?
my question was, along the same line, the local school board would still be, in this case, under the liability of the instructor and the site. And so if you're offering a program off campus, there's a certain amount of liability that the local board is going to accept. That's not gonna be on the
Well,
state.
So we're not, and in the law, the local school board, they waive liability basically for local school boards that do this. So if I have a church that's across the street and they want to offer a program outside of school hours, but we want to give credit for that program, the board is simply saying they will give credit, but they are not taking liability for if a student gets hurt at the fencing program.
I don't think we can absolve them of that liability. Having been superintendents, you and I know if any child goes anywhere and gets hurt, I don't care what kind of dispensation the parent, that liability falls back.
So what does our legal counsel say?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Dr. Ms.
So let me go back just to answer that question. So the legislature passed a law setting ELOs up, and it said the state board will do a policy. But in the legislature has attempted to absolve that liability. I'm not saying that they couldn't be sued. We all know anybody can be sued. They tried to extend that immunity.
Yeah,
There are some
that's not
natural
gonna keep you getting
protections.
sued, but it is a defense to the lawsuit.
Yeah, I think that
I'm
it's
just
a natural, I think
Yeah,
we're
oh, yeah,
protected.
absolutely. We always
But
gotta be
it's-
concerned with that.
Now, again, the model policy as we have it really kicks it back to the local school boards, that if they do not want to set up one of these, they would not have to. I can tell you the original legislation that was introduced, not what passed, said that local boards wouldn't have an opportunity to deny it. Like if a nonprofit showed up and said, we're gonna do this, they would have to sign an agreement with them and offer credit. We pushed back hard on that and said, no, may, but we at the state legislature should not force local boards to sign agreements with nonprofits.
I'm sure AASB
And so
was also very.
They were, all the associations were engaged, and so anyway, we got to a point that it's now an offering, but not a requirement on local boards. I was in a long meeting yesterday afternoon about this with some of the vendors that want to offer these and the group and legislative leadership. So we're working through the details still. I've got some people that are upset with me about it, but my position has been we should not at the state level force local boards to sign MOAs with nonprofits to do this. So if they didn't want to, but they could, but would not have to.
But I think the locals, there are laws that protect them, not just this particular one. So I think the locals are protected, and yes, it's pretty clear. I don't even know why we're even discussing anymore, because it's pretty clear. And that, I'm glad you worked with the local option, but the local option is how the law ended up, and that's a good thing.
And we'll, if you have, this is generating a lot of questions, and it should. If you don't feel like you think you would want to take another month, it doesn't have to go up for intent next month.
Why not?
But
Why not, take another?
No, why don't we just go ahead and do it?
we're.
All we're doing is taking the
question.
Yeah.
And that opens it up for 45 days of public
Right,
comment,
exactly.
and that would be.
That's good.
We're only offering it to consider, right?
Right.
That's correct.
It's not, it's an announced.
Intent.
Yeah, the
Right,
intent.
Doesn't,
So,
just.
Doesn't make it permanent.
I guess it on,
I agree with you.
but we're pretty
Okay.
much.
I'll look at the background check part though, and we will, and you'll see item 11, the last part of it is the part where we say if an ELO has been approved by at least 50% of school districts, they should be eligible to apply to the department for statewide approval. Even if they got that, we would still not force other districts to do it. It was just, they would get basically a certificate that would say, this has been vetted at state level. So when they went to those other districts, they would be able to show that.
You feel we need to do that, to 50% to be able to apply? I mean, I still like to,
The
never mind.
local option. No, I mean, just stick with the local option and.
No, I don't think that ever should come to the state level. That's not our role.
They're the ones who are pretty much administering the program. They're the ones who have to oversee it, and obviously, the law is pretty specific in its intent. It has that option, but why would we do that?
I think the law requires us to have something in there.
We can do it.
So let me look at it and see, and that, but we set the threshold at 50%.
Well, we've discussed us in the legislature after lunch. I assure you that's gonna come up.
Okay,
Really?
anything else? Okay, we'll reconvene until 1:30, thank you.
1:30.
1:30.
That's a good time, that's a good time. Dr. Lewis did a great job.
See, I like
I mean, you know, it's like.
That's true. Get upstairs.
questions.
Okay, who wants to start?
Okay.
We're good. Now, I want to say this to start. So we do have, as I mentioned this morning, lots of staff listening. And Angela knows, she's told her folks, hey, if they may call and say you want somebody to come down, but maybe, stuff.
We could say, okay, Angela, start running now.
Yes.
Mine's not really a question, but, when we're talking about the retreat and we have areas of interest or a hot topic or whatever little adage you want to put on it, we don't need to just wait until a retreat to get answers or dig deeper. To me, if there is an item of interest that, I'm just going to say charter school, I'm just pick that out of my brain. And we need to talk about it. Why can we not put that on the agenda for the next work session? We don't have to wait and keep all of our areas of interest or whatever term you want to. Why can't we start doing that and then we can address them at the work session?
Absolutely. Well, and that's how today, and that's exactly what happened with Dr. Lewis coming. I think you would want to ask about this. And so then, but the hard part for us is like we can't do it at the last second. Like if we know.
But I mean, if we are thinking ahead of time and we know about which we need to speak, Tracy might say, I really want to talk about whatever, and then say, can we put it on? And, by the time my brain kicks in mostly on the way home from these meetings because of everything I've heard about, discussions and seeing the kidlets and all that, that my brain's going. So we could always come back, and if you get 2 or 3 or 4, we can just itemize them on out.
Sure. And we can do trainings online. Like we've done some things. Remember we did something on contracts last year. If it's not specific things that are going to come before you for a vote. So like we can't discuss things you're going to vote on, but if it's a specific item like, like the contract process, not a particular contract, we can do those we can set up a WebEx and do trainings outside too.
But that's good, but I want it where we can discuss it, and I want where if it's a topic of interest again, that we can discuss it and bring it forth, and then, and then on the way home, if we're talking about, and I know on the way home, I'm gonna have people emailing me about what we learned about this classroom disruptions and things like that. So by us talking about it and learning, and I know about what you're speaking.
Yes.
But then it also will bring in our listening audience and those that are interested, and so I think that's a win-win. So that's my thought.
Good.
I'm done.
Yes.
For a second.
I did have a question. Dr. Mackey, are you engaging our deans of our colleges that are preparing elementary teachers for the language we're reading in the math bill proposal? So are they do you know if they're discussing it? Because there is a higher ed piece to that bill. I think it's a pretty significant request through the law for higher ed, and so I just wanted to know if you are engaging them or if you know that if they are having discussions.
So I don't know for sure about the deans. I know, of course, that bill, remember, we just got it last Thursday, so it's been a
The
week.
numeracy bill, or the
Numeracy. So we have, I met on Tuesday with the higher ed, their governmental affairs group. And we talked about it with them. And I told them, that was one of the things I left them with. I said, that was before the public hearing, the morning of that.
Okay.
I said, you need to go back and meet with your deans, your provost, or whoever, and they need to be looking at the Numeracy Act. I don't think anybody in the room had even looked at, they go chasing other bills. I said, there are provisions on you in there.
Yes.
And as the governmental affairs, you're the person representing the legislature for your institution. You need to know what's in that bill, and make sure your deans and your provost and all are looking at it. So that's the way I've handled it so far.
Okay.
So I don't know if any of them have gotten back with their deans yet or not. We only have one dean here, and I won't put her on the spot. We will follow up with the deans. So it is good that Dr. Kenny's here. So they have an association too, a great group, Allocate, and she is the president of that group for this year. Our best way is to go through them, I've found, when we do something like that. So we would be glad we could do an online call with you guys. I don't know if you guys have talked about it or not, but it is a salient point, because one of the things that we learned through the Literacy Act was we did not, there was a lot of K-12 in there, and we digested that. And we had a good plan before it even passed about how we were going to do implementation. We really didn't focus on the higher ed piece, and I did have some higher ed people who were in a panic after it passed because they didn't even know it had been proposed as a bill. And they had a lot of new things they had to do. We changed board regulations, we brought in Barksdale. So I'll say I've learned from that we have to engage higher ed, and that's why I met with them Tuesday.
Okay.
But my tact had been to go through their governmental affairs people, but I would be glad to meet with the deans.
Great. No, I just wanted to raise that in this setting with all of us, because we do have colleges in our districts, and I do think it's something now they need to pay attention to, because we are all discussing math. There is a significant portion of the bill that does speak to higher ed, makes requirements of higher ed, therefore affects their budget, and what they would be teaching. And I know that takes time for colleges to develop, and I would hate for that to not be on their radar just because it's a K-12 bill. So anyway, that was
you
a
and I,
question
sort of
I had.
following up on your question, you and I had talked a little bit about math requirements, and shame on me for not knowing more of this. When we approve College of Education programs, like we've got some on the agenda for next month, I don't know what our requirements are for math education. Right, for elementary ed. I don't know, for example, how many math content courses they're required to do, how many math methods courses they're required to do, and I guess what's the minimum that we require, and then what do they actually do? I'd like to have a report. I felt inadequate in discussing it because I can't speak to what we actually do right now. And so what are our requirements now that we have passed as a board? And then what are, some may be going far above and beyond, but I can't speak to that. I don't have that information in my toolkit right now. So if we could get a report that looks at just elementary ed, I would say, I think that's what it focuses on. And if we could get a report that shows, one, the minimum required, and then two, what each one does. And as it stands right now, I think that would give me enough knowledge to speak intelligently about what the current situation is, because I can't right now.
Yeah. So you want elementary ed, and I assume early childhood too, which would be grades P through 3.
Right,
So you want P3 in there.
And the bill itself, I believe, as I read it a couple times, had basically 4 courses for that math specialty. So a follow-up question would be for the colleges, are they going to have to cut anything that is significant in elementary education in order to get those 4 courses in line with graduation? I know that higher ed is pressured to keep hours low or to really trim down and make every course hour valuable. And so if we're adding 4 courses for that math portion, I am all for math training for these teachers, absolutely, because I have so many math elementary teachers say, well, I never learned how to teach math. So it's obvious that it's needed, but I just would like to start thinking about how this will affect those institutions, because we are dealing with a teacher shortage and there are so many other factors. And are we in any way hindering them from doing their best work?
And we may have to meet ultimately, or if this bill passes into law, we may have to end up meeting with college presidents, right? Because sometimes they have their core that they require X number of Englishes, X number of histories, social science, that, you know, that aren't out of the College of Education.
Well, I was about to say, most of them have to take general education.
Right.
So many hours. And in there, there's normally 2 courses, because there's a paradigm for elementary education and early childhood. Then when they get onto their professional studies, and I guess depending upon what the institution has approved, there may be 2 courses over there. But what I'm thinking, in answer to what you're asking with this teaching component, it may be viewed as a concentration, which might be additional 4 courses. I don't know how it's gonna be reviewed.
Yeah, I don't know that I can speak to it now. We did end up with literacy. There were some issues that, because the Literacy Act required 9 hours of instruction in the science of reading. We had a few institutions that were doing 6 hours, and they had to add one at a course. And in doing so, because they're capped at how many hours they can require for graduation, they had to drop courses. I'm not sure that, I think some dropped math, because they were doing 6 hours of math, and they added one in English or in reading, and they had to, so they went to 3 in math from 6. I mean, they are capped, you're right, and that's a issue for the provost, but we'll do that. We'll get that's one of those things, Dr. Meyer, we'll get somebody from her section, her, next month to come and do that. We'll get a little report ahead of time.
That's good.
But we can do that for you. So we do have minimum requirements, obviously. Now, one of the issues is that, we all I think know this, but we have this delicate dance with the institutions. We have minimum requirements, you have minimum requirements, but we do not go in like to their classrooms and evaluate their teachers and all. They're employees. So one of the things that we've heard is like all the institutions have shown us their syllabi that they are doing the science of reading. But then we hear only in, I don't have any formal reports that yes, that professor turned that syllabus in, but they don't actually follow the syllabus. I mean, there comes a point where we trust our deans and provosts and academic people in the institution to work on that. Now you say, well, Dr. Mackey, is there a quality control? Yes, because we require them to take a test at the end, and remember you've changed the test to the Massachusetts test that's much stronger in science of reading than the old test we had, which was a more global test and included some science of reading, but also some literature and other pieces. What we've done now is say we're pretty much just going to give them a test in the science of reading, the new fundamentals test. So there's I call it a delicate dance, and it kind of is. We have to, they're the institutions, we have to trust them to do the work, but then it's almost that old trust and verify save. So we're kind of on the both ends of that. You all have the minimum standards, and then you have a test at the end to verify that in between the institution has done that work. We think that it'll be very difficult for people to pass this new test if they have not had 3 courses in the science of reading. We have one institution that just requires letters. They're certifying all their teachers, pre-certifying all their teachers in letters. That's JSU. That's what we would like. I told when I met with their governmental affairs folks on Tuesday, I brought that up. I said we would like for all institutions to do this. But I think that's also part of that delicate dance, us requiring them to use a particular curriculum and vendor. But if some of them really hold out, I wouldn't be, we might, but that's like the special ed certificate. We've got 2 institutions that I think are just not gonna do it, like that's not part of what they want to do. But if the other 15 or so do, then, you know, we'll just have to, people who want that special ed certificate will have somewhere to direct them. May I say one more thing, and I promise my hope is that in time, we'll say something that not gonna really make sense. In time, we would like for the market to drive these, like institutions that are graduating really good reading teachers, their teachers are the ones getting jobs. I think that would happen in a market where we had an excess number of teachers. But right now, because of the teacher shortage, you know, we've got people who cannot find elementary applicants. They cannot find elementary applicants. So they're gonna hire whoever they can get. So anyway, I love market-driven economics, but it only works when you have supply and demand.
Right.
All we have is demand. So I know Ms. Ziegler had a question for me, I think.
Yes.
Well, to piggyback on that, granted, you know, the colleges and universities teach our teachers to be in the science of reading. But when they're hired and in the classroom, if you have, and to me, so much is critical on having a strong, an intelligent, who attends as much professional development leader at the local school. Where if you're like disciplined, you are in charge of creating that atmosphere of respect. You are creating that atmosphere of, no, we're not gonna do that, sort of like the eye look or whatever. I still have that down pat. But also, as an administrator, that's why whenever my teachers got trained in something, I went, because when I did my walkthroughs and I sat in that classroom, I knew about which to see. So if I have and my eyes are on those brand new teachers to making sure they know what the science of reading, and you would know as Johnny on the spot if they're not teaching that science of reading. And then you can go back about what you said about discipline. It's the same thing. If they say they're teaching the science of reading, but they're not, well, send Susie Q or whomever back for training. But it is so imperative that we put the responsibility where it belongs on those educators in the field to watch out what is being done and do corrective measures there.
So that's excellent points. And with literacy, of course, we have the principal piece. With math, that's been one of the criticisms I've gotten blown up by the principals associations because they think there's too much in the Numeracy Act on principals, and I understand that. I mean, you've got to find that balance because they have lots of other things. They have many things they have to do. But I talked to Dr. Wilson yesterday about it, and we're going to work with them and Senator on the language in that to try to make sure it feels balanced. One of the things Senator Melson, you notice Melson and Orr co-sponsoring the Numeracy Act. Senator Melson asked me yesterday about pulling together, and we're going to do this, but through AMSTI, some classroom teachers, a small group. He said no more than 5, 6, or 7, and let them look at the bill and tell you, can they manage the work we're putting on them in this bill? And I think that's a good, and those are my words, not his, but essentially that's what he asked me if we could do that. And I said, yes, we can go through our 11 AMSTI centers. Maybe we might go a little higher than what he wanted and do like one per region and let them tell us, you know, what would this be like to implement? I think that's something, again, we learned from literacy, that, you know, we got to think about implementation. A lot of good PD going on, lots of people wanting it, but how do we do that? How do we not overwhelm our teachers too? So, and principals, same thing. How do we make sure they have it? You know, we've got a few principals who've gone through the entire letters. I know one of them is Dr. McCarty's. They've gone through the teacher part, not just the principal part. So they understand the whole thing. Right. We're looking at how we can do stipends for them too, because they've really gone above and beyond what's required.
Yeah, but you learn so much more by going through the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
And going through it with your teachers.
That's what I mean. And the teachers, when you do it with them, then they know that you are supporting them. And then if they have a question, they can come to me and I can help them solve that issue. You can't do a walkthrough if you don't have all the tools in your toolbox to know about which you're looking. And our kids deserve it. And the only way we're gonna turn this all around is we've got to do that science and reading, get our kids reading again.
Sure.
Gotta do it.
Absolutely.
Dr. Mackey, speaking of doing a dance, it's interesting the amount of involvement that our legislature in this term is involved in some of the core things that one might assume are under the purview of the State Board of Education. Among Dr. Orr and Dr. Melson's bills, and the bill, the 140 bill, which had opposition that Senator Marsh, I don't think expected, because the private school people wrote me, and I sent, I think to all of y'all, their very well defined and referenced letter about they're not willing to sell their rights out for $5,400. And I communicated with AL.com about some of those issues. But there is a significant disconnect between us and the legislature. And I think I made it known that I would like our retreat in-service session to focus on us and some of the legislative leaders face to face. Dr. Melson, Senator Orr, Speaker of the House, and others have said to me, they don't hear much from us. And I deal with some of those at a political level in another role that I have. And I think it would behoove us to sit down in a very frank discussion. And I forwarded your letter, both your letters, to those persons, and I've gotten good comments back from them. But I think that as the state board, when people are coming up with legislation, not only that deals with an issue, but sets up an independent oversight group apart from us, it's disturbing to me. I've only been a member of this board since 2019, but they asked me, Wayne, why are we 52nd in math? Why are we having Common Core in math? You've got the letter from Equal Forum, and I don't have the answer. But I think somewhat and I think if Ms. Bell was here, she would echo it, that there's a disconnect that perhaps we need to face deal with them, because they're honorable people. And I think we're honorable people, and I've actually told one of them that I represent as many people as any 4 senators do. Each of us do. There are 8 of us and 35 senators. Do the math. No pun intended. And I think that it behooves us, and I know Ms. West works hard, but I spoke to Mr. Orr last night, and Ms. Collins lives just a few miles from me, and you had her, now you got her, and I have her all the time. But I would hope that even if we have to change the date of that retreat, that a significant emphasis has to be in the 500-pound gorilla in the room, and that is the numbers of bills and actions that come out of the legislature which actually redefine our role. And some of you may know that everybody got a raise, not that we do it for money, but they left the Board of Education out. They didn't include us. To such an extent, I didn't realize that we got left out, but when I paid my declaration fee in the Republican Party, they set it up assuming we got a raise. And then they called me and said, we owe you a refund. I didn't know. But there is a real disconnect. And I think Dr. Melson is my board member, chairman of the committee. You know Ms. Collins, she lives in Decatur, closer to me than Belinda. And Senator Butler and others, and the speaker lives 15 miles from me. But we need to meet with him. And tell me what you want me to do, because they tell me fix math, fix this. I don't have a solution.
We all want the same thing. We want.
But we're adversarial.
We want
But somehow we're adversarial.
for our
I
kids.
don't know.
And we're gonna have to stop being adversarial and figure out commonalities we have and work together and get this done. Now.
And I'm really willing to reach out to them and say, we're subject to your rules. But what in God's name do you think we can do? When the bill, I mean, I see Senator Orr all the time at meetings and whatever, and then he drops his bill and asks him, you know where I am, you have my private number, you ever consider talking to me? And Nelson called me and said, Wayne, I just signed on to it, I really don't believe in it.
Oh, God.
But, you know, I don't believe in some of the aspects of it. You know, he said some of the aspects of it, not the whole thing, particularly setting up a second organizational structure. And some of you may be familiar when the Bill 140 came out, I was more than a little adamant about its deficiencies.
Well, Dr. Reynolds, I think in line with that, originally when we were scheduled to meet, we were scheduled to have some legislators come over, and I think it's just a matter of us trying to look at expanding that pool, so.
I think we need to absolutely dedicate our meeting to their availability and more than invite them to let them know that's our priority. If I have any one priority on this board, it's being able to have the legislation and our governance of schools relate to each other and not to be in a term.
Isolation.
Not in, almost in opposition, because we're trying to repair it after once they drop a bill, it's too late.
I could see us all through the year working with them. Not just when the legislature's in session, but all through the year. And then it's not so tense. Right now, they're running to meetings, they're reading the bills, they're reading the amendments, there's a new one coming down. There's so much being thrown at them. And I feel like a lot of times we are reactive once the session starts, but we got a long period of time when they're not in session.
That's right.
And that's when we can have more meaty conversations with them.
Well, we've never had any that I know.
Well, we have individually, I think,
but I'm
but
talking
that's,
about organizational.
but that's where we could say, what troubles you about math? Let's have a frank conversation. What would you like to see in education? Where do you believe the weaknesses are? Right? Is it elementary? Is that the major issue? Is it colleges and you know, what is the, and then just have a conversation and try to get on the same page, and then let Dr. Mackey and his team come up with the best approach, the plan. Meet back with them, discuss the plan for improvement, let them make comments. We don't have to accept all the comments, but allow them to address our suggestions, our recommendations, and hear what their concerns are long before the session starts. Right? I mean, I could see us even when we work on the budget, like I think we start talking about the budget maybe in August. That really sets by our budget, to me, that shows our priorities. Right? Like school, mental health, all those things we talked about. That's the time, if not earlier, to me, that we start meeting with our legislators and talking with them. And these are what we are hearing when we're out in schools and talking with our constituents. Share with us what you're hearing. Share with us your concerns. And if they say, I don't care about any of that, all I care about is that we're 52nd in the nation in math, well, okay, we know that's a priority. And then Dr. Mackey can ask his AMSTI team and others, he can say, okay, what do you need? What resources do you need in order to move the needle? Right? Dr. Mackey, I still remember when you interviewed and you talked about the NAEP scores and how you followed them just like the Golden Globes and the Academy Award announcements. And that one of your goals as state superintendent was to move us from the bottom in math into the 30s in short order. And oh my God, it was like magic. It was wonderful. And so we want to take the steps that we need, you know, and let us help you. Let us support you. Give us a plan, and then we can, if it requires more funding, or more personnel, or whatever it might require, or working with our colleges and universities, then let us help you and let us work with the legislature
But
to
Dr.
get
McCarty,
that done.
they hold us as a constitutional officer. My constituents hold me accountable. And that the legislature acts almost in contradiction to what our role is. You can talk about the numeracy and math and letters and whatever you want to, but they see this elephant differently than we do. And they also wonder, and I told them I've only been on the board since 19, but what are we doing to fix it? So that's why the numeracy bill came about. Senator Orr, and he's a very honorable person, but he wrote this bill, which can be perceived to be, and I know I get quoted enough, can be perceived as limiting the authority or modifying the authority of the State Board of Education in setting up this separate group, this czar. But we didn't know anything about it, and I don't see it solving the issue. But I meet with these people individually, both as a board member and as member of the State Republican Executive Committee. And it's not a partisan issue, but it's something that we need to, somebody has to be the first person to take the stand to invite. And if it's a problem with the legislature, we need to humble ourselves and say, we want you to come and we want to listen to you. And I don't like to have to make statements about why you're letting this lame duck senator lead you around. But sometimes I'm prepared to do that. And my wife doesn't like that either, but that's the reality that I have. I didn't enter into this role accidentally. Actually, I became elected because the person that sought me out to be on the state board was the late Ms. Bell, which is unbelievable for some people. But that's why I decided to run for the state board. And I'm concerned. There's a very strong disconnect. And people say, Dr. Mackey, they don't want to hear, they want to know what I do as a state board member and what you do. And if your senator didn't consult with you before he dropped that Bill 140, then he doesn't respect the board or respect our authority. And I'm concerned about that. I want to be fair and open. And actually, that letter from the private school people, I didn't solicit, except they read something from some organization and sent it to me, which helped turn that whole battle around. And you got the letter about the literacy bill from a conservative group that says it's associated with Common Core. I happened to vote against the curriculum and the adoption, but that doesn't mean once it's adopted, it's not mine as a board member. I believe that as a board member, I vote my conscience, and once the board decides, I own it. And that's why I hope that whatever we do as the president of this board, that this next involvement, one critical issue we have is not the letters or what's going on in the classroom. It's our relationship with the state board, with the state legislature who governs our funding and then many times governs our very action. I'm not sure about this, the ELO resolution, and what I'm not right now in favor of it, because I don't think we vetted it out. Despite the legislative action, they can direct us to do it, but once we adopt some of these things, if we're not very comfortable about what fringe persons might do an ELO activity, we need to really analyze it carefully. I don't care what the legislature passed. We have to represent ourselves. I'm done.
Dr. Reynolds, I know that I was very naive, but when I was elected to this board, I really thought that the school board, the legislature, the education family, AASB, SSA, AEA, class, I really thought that we all pretty much wanted the same things. Is that hopeless? Can't we come together on what we really want to make the changes in education in Alabama that we so desperately need? Can't we find commonalities and come together and actually do that?
We can if we don't talk. We can't if the board doesn't initiate it. I mean, who's going to bring it together? somebody in a reconciliation or and I said I was done, in a reconciliation or a reevaluation or realignment of your priorities, somebody has to take the first step. My opinion is that we, the State Board of Education, should take that first step. Because I believe all of them are honorable people. And I believe all of us here on this board believe in education of children. And as I confessed to this morning, I've been in this business 50 years, which is almost older than most of you are.
Thank you.
Well, we've talked about it. Why don't we put something in place and offer an invitation to all of the different entities that have a vested interest in moving education forward in Alabama. Take the lead. Offer up several dates. You know how they have like legislative days. It can be a day of just focusing on education in Alabama. Not to point fingers, not to place blame, but we all should have the same purpose, and that is to move Alabama forward. But it won't happen if we don't put forth the effort to come together and work together. You know, it has nothing to do with political issues. At the end of the day, it's about doing what's going to impact our students. And so, yes, we should come together for our retreat, but it has to happen more than one time a year. This has to be something that we can commit to quarterly, at least. You know, as Dr. McCarty said, we can't just wait until the session. They're in session. It's too late then. We need to strategically look at the calendar, look at their calendar, and set dates that will be accommodating to both the board members, the other organizations, and the legislators. You know, at this point, the only place we can go is up. We're at the bottom.
Amen.
And if we continue to do the same thing, we're going to get the same results. You know, that's why we're here. Well, that's why I'm here, to make a difference. I can't speak for anybody else. But I know that I don't like being at the bottom. I don't like being last, you know, and I know that I believe everybody here feels the same way. So if we can reach out and gather some dates and just ask, you know, who's committed to coming to the table? And let's have a discussion. You know, I had the opportunity to talk to some people in Mississippi. And the thing that stuck with me out of that conversation was the fact that they took Alabama's plan. Okay? They took our framework. And they have accomplished more with our plan than we have. So there's a disconnect somewhere. There's a gap somewhere. But until we come to the table and make it a priority and be intentional about it, you know, we're just spinning our wheels. And so let's just do it.
Well, and I will say, I sat quietly to listen.
I tried to.
But Dr. Reynolds shared this last week his desire for this, and as Dr. Richardson had asked, would I please assist in putting the retreat together, I have already put into motion with Dr. Richardson and with Dr. Mackey's office invitations. We're just talking about this now before they've had a chance to actually go out and then have responses. So we're not asleep at the switch. And I do believe that we are making significant progress. I think Dr. Mackey's letter that went out outlining the accomplishments that we have been making the last couple of years
If you look at that list, many of those things are monumental. We will not see the fruit of that labor for a while. So I just refuse to stay engaged in that we are at the bottom.
Right.
No, we are rising. If you look at, what's the data, Dr. Mackey, the difference between the state that's in the 44th position and the state that's in the 52nd position, I believe it's 1 point. I believe it's 1 point. We are so close to making great gains, and I just refuse to accept any negativity about this. We will work toward having folks at the retreat. We will work toward reporting and communicating, and I think Dr. Mackey and his team are doing that.
Yes.
So I thank you so much, and I'll report back through Dr. Richardson, Dr. Mackey, as things come together for the retreat that's being re-planned.
Thank you. And I think we've got to quit just always, and I know it's the buzzword and everybody looks at it, the name. It's a snapshot of only 88 schools, of only 4th and 8th grade, of which we get back no data to the individual schools that can drive the instruction. So,
it's a piece of
it's just a
information.
snapshot of that day and that time, and that's what it is. Fine, it's a type of ranking, fine. We need to be giving the conversation so they understand. We've got the ACAP, you can take it, you disaggregate. I had a clear school. We were shining and we were looking good. Were we all clear? No, until I disaggregated it down and found out that I had some kids that were not doing well. Then I focused on them. We have to start looking at ways to drive instruction and move our kids, and be it what is their area of deficiency. If I found out that all of them did poorly on, I'll say pronouns, that was my fault as a teacher. If I found out that 4 of the kids didn't do well on that, I'd pull them back, I'd do whatever I needed to do instruction. We've got to quit saying, what do we need to do? We know what to do. We've got to do it. We've got to give them the tool. I like letters, or the science of reading, it's going to move them forward. What are we going to do for math? We've got to quit saying, what do you want? What do you want? We've got to. It's our job to know what we need to do. And if we are doing it, we need to be better at communicating it so people know what we're doing. There's my other soapbox.
I think what you said is the key, because as we said here today, a lot of great things are going on, but it's not known.
Right.
And so we have to be intentional in making sure that those best practices are shared. You know, I sat here and listened, I was just amazed to hear, what's happening. And I think that as we move forward, yes, we will identify the areas that we need to work on, but we also need to really be intentional in sharing those best practices that are taking place. We are doing some great things. I believe that the difference, you said 1 point, that's encouraging. I think that when we come together, we'll find that we are this close. And that just may be the missing link. A lot of great things are going on, but let's be the trailblazers.
Let's do it.
In making it happen.
Is it Nike that says it? Let's do it.
Let's just do
Nike.
it.
Nike, thank you. Let's just do it.
Just do it.
And every time I'm out in the community, I speak about what we're doing and what needs to be done. And we've got to communicate that out there, so.
But in line with that, you were talking about the nature. I was in a meeting yesterday, 2-year college people.
Okay.
And data was presented that showed the ACAP.
Good.
Looking at the reading and the math. And it showed, of course, we did not do that well. We already knew that.
That's fine.
However, I think as we go forward, for example, what Dr. Letwell shared in the plan, the communication piece is not there.
That's it.
Because I think it's obvious that we're doing things, but people are not aware. Now, we know we have some learning losses because of COVID, but we've got to look beyond the learning losses to determine how we're going to get those people who lost to go forward. So we have got to pull together, but I thank you, Ms. West, because we have already begun that process of sending those invitations out. But I agree with you that it's got to be a continuous process, even like you said, like quarterly, we just can't wait to be reactive.
Right.
We've got to be proactive, and for them to see that we are willing to extend the olive branch. It's gonna take all of us, because we know team, together, everyone achieves more.
Right.
That's
So
what we
would
have to
that
do.
be a special call meeting if we wish, just say we wanted it, not on a board meeting day, if we needed a special day that all of us could meet, would that be a special call meeting?
Well, right now, we were looking at.
No, I know, I'm just talking about if we want to continue this down the line,
Yes.
every quarterly or more often.
Well, yeah, it had to be, absolutely, you had to have a call meeting. I mean, obviously it's best if we can put it on, like, if you wanted to meet more often, maybe one Thursday. One of these meetings, we take the afternoon of the work session once a quarter and make that a conversation with legislators, and we would just, we would just commit that we would do our business before lunch, maybe invite them to have lunch and then do afternoon. Once a quarter, we could just do that.
Okay.
It's a,
That'd be a little bit
I mean,
easier.
I don't think it's gonna be that difficult to put
No.
it together, it's just organizing our people.
Right.
yeah, I would, anyway.
Sure.
The only thing, I'm gonna say what I was gonna say. The only thing I would say, because I talked to a lot of them, and I talked to pretty much everybody in leadership yesterday. I mean, I have hours of conversation a week with them. They are gonna be much better. I think personal conversations outside of a meeting with the whole state watching and the media and all, you're gonna get better results. I think a meet once a year like that, and then follow up with personal conversations. Because I can tell you, I mean, I go over there, I was over there yesterday in multiple committee meetings, but it's different when you're speaking in a committee with 60 people in the room, and then the very same people you've sat there and testified to catch you walking down the hallway because they want to have a personal conversation that's deeper and more constructive. So I don't want us to fall into the only way to have conversations with legislators is in a formal called meeting that's online and everybody's watching. I actually think you'll get better conversations having personal conversations with people. Not saying we shouldn't do it some, and we did have many of them were committed to come before we had to cancel because of COVID. And I think they will come March 30th. I think we'll be able to do that. But I think the immediate follow-up is then those personal conversations with people. That's just, and we do. I mean, just remember, there are always going to be bills introduced. Hundreds of bills introduced that deal with all sorts of different things. This one's, numeracy is obviously a really big one. SB 140 is a really big one. And those are, but sometimes you get really big bills too. But there's also, like, I've referenced that textbook bill. I mean, this is our third year, and we're still not through the gamut yet, but we're getting closer. But it takes time. Kindergarten, there is already strong opposition. Last night, I sat down with Representative Warren last night. We spent a long time discussing it. I mean, it just takes a long time to build consensus sometimes around very targeted issues, much less something as huge as the, math and literacy and those kind of things. But I also want to, I want y'all to feel good about the work you've done. Like literacy, you're exactly right. Alabama wrote the plan on literacy. Y'all heard me say before, I was one of those ARI principals back in the late 90s, early 2000s. The state got away from it. So how did we do that? We quit following our own plan to success.
That's right.
But in my interview, I said one of the three things we wanted to do, one of them was we had to get back to ARI, implementing ARI as we had done it when we were successful. And y'all have done that. You've done that. We've passed new rules. We've gone into colleges and ed at a deeper level than we ever have. Now, did the legislature get a piece of that too? Yes, with the Literacy Act. But But that was, in large part, the buy-in from them to get the funding. Like, they want to be partners with us too. We implement, but then they want to also have a piece of that, and passing legislation gives them a piece of that success. And I think that's how we got the additional money. I mean, they brought tens of millions of new dollars to the table that even with our best intentions of reinventing it, I don't know if we had gotten if they had not passed an act, because they wanted to have that piece too. So I think with literacy, I mean, I think we are back on track. We are back into, and I think we'll show that in time. I think getting new core reading materials in the classroom is key, but it takes time. Remember, we still are purchasing those materials and moving into it.
But we're talking about it.
We're
The
talking
teachers know it, the community knows it, the parents know it, the good Lord knows about it, because we are actively talking about literacy and reading. Now, I do believe, I agree, it's not off and running, but we're off and moving it in the right direction. Now, we've got to do it with math. We've just got to do it with math. And our kids deserve our best effort. And the same way, by getting the conversation on the table, I don't go anywhere where we don't. And as I said, I read the Literacy Act just the other day again, and I found more in that stupid bill that I hadn't known that I've read 55 times. But it's always good to go back and read it, because it reaffirms that we're on the right track. We need to do that in math, and we're not there, in my estimation. I'm not saying we're not going to get there, but we've got to get going and get going quickly
And
to save our
we need
kids.
the investment. I know a lot of people, obviously there's a lot of people who have come out against the Numeracy Act, and me being one of the proponents puts me in a bad position, I guess, but it puts, that brings $90 million to the table in new people. Now, we couldn't even find all those math coaches we went into now, but that was the key recommendation of the STEM Council. That was a key recommendation of a previous math study that was done before I was superintendent. Dr. McCarty is smiling, she knows. I mean, that's not new. We've said we've got to have that PD piece, and we need a coach in the school helping implement the PD. Well, this is the first time in a long time that the legislature has said, or a legislator, a major piece of legislation has said, okay, we're with you now, we're willing to fund that, but we want some other stipulations with it. So we're having to, it's a part of the legislative process. But I think it's good that we now have them talking about funding math coaches, which we've been talking about for a long time, and now we've got them talking about it too. So it is good to all, the conversation will be good.
Dr. Mackey, you were in support of the numeracy. Were you speaking to the separate governance board set up in the ASAR?
It's in my letter. There are problems with it that have to be corrected.
You were on we're published.
General, in favor of us moving in that direction, but there are definitely some issues that I would not have, and I've been open about that.
Dr. Mackey, I had a lot of questions, and y'all probably have too, about the process moving forward for K-3 ELA textbooks. How, sort of a timeline, what's the procedure? Will it be the same textbook committee? Will they use the same rubric? I guess what really LEAs want to know for sure is, when is an expected target date?
Okay, good question. So we'll send a memo out that'll outline 2 or 3 things. So first is the 412, and now they'll get the rubric and they'll get those, all that's, I think we're planning on getting that out tomorrow. It may go out today even, because we talked to them ahead of time, our instructional folks. We've got to get that ready to go out as soon as the board votes, assuming it passes, 412. K-3, what we will tell them is they have 3 options. Okay, and that's kind of outlined in the resolution itself, actually. So one option is, an option many of them have already exercised, if they use non-state dollars, so they use their ESSER funds, other federal funds, They can use local funds and to purchase a core reading program, which many of them have already done, because that was one of the ways they could use their ESSER funds. Then they can move forward immediately. They could actually, that's a choice they've had since last summer when we published the memo in July that gave them 2 options for core reading programs as recommended by the Literacy Task Force. So option 1 has been on the table since last July and it remains on the table. Option 2 is if they want to use state dollars to purchase one of the 2 programs already approved by the Literacy Task Force, Amplify and Open Corner. I can say that now. Those are the 2 that were approved by the Literacy Task Force. If they want to use state dollars to purchase those, then they have to set up a local textbook committee process, and they can do a vetting and they can choose. But what we've told them is they have to choose between one of those 2, because they have to have a core reading program that is vetted and approved by the Literacy Task Force. And that's not in the law. That's what we've said. We've said that that's what we want them to do. And I mean, you didn't ask this, but I have been asked, well, what if a local school board and superintendent just say they're not doing that? Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard one yet that said they're not going to. So when we get there, we'll cross that bridge. So the third option is they can wait on us and we will re-RFP and see what we get. And so, but that's not, it's going to be many months from now.
Okay.
I don't have a timeline. I'm going to say probably in 23. And here's why. One, if we redo it now, we get the same thing we've had. There's nothing else because we only have 2. Remember, we still have the Literacy Task Force and the textbook committee. The Literacy Task Force has recommended 2. We know that one of those 2 does not meet the law as it stands. So if the law changes, the Textbook Act, which we're pushing for, and the 3-year publication date's removed, we could rebid and possibly have 2 vendors, but we would still be limited to only those 2 that would have the overlap. There are many, this is why I'm saying 23. I think we're better off to wait because there are many textbook companies that are now wanting to get on board with teaching the science of reading. And one of those 2 vendors that I mentioned is planning on reissuing their product and they're going to have a new copyright date anyway. I think that because option 1 and option 2 covers everybody, I mean, anybody can now use state dollars using the local textbook process after today's vote. So they've got an option, and we can help them through that and purchase what they want to purchase. I think we need to probably wait another year, go through the whole process. So let the Literacy Task Force look again, because there may be another piece of material that would want to submit, and we might have 3 options next year. If one of those vendors updates, they might drop off the list because it might no longer include the science reading. So I think we'd want a process where the Literacy Task Force re-looked at it and the textbook committee. And possibly kind of a joint, I've worked on this in my head, unfortunately late at night, but I haven't figured it out yet. But a joint process where the Literacy Task Force and textbook committee could actually work together on it and have some overlap. And I think we could maybe do that because we're only looking at K-3 reading. Right. Obviously, the textbook committee is much bigger than just the Literacy Task Force, very narrow charge of K-3 reading. But now that we're only looking at those K-3 reading books, I think maybe we could design a process where those 2 things could happen at the same time. We probably would reappoint the committee because I'm not sure, but I think the law says those appointments are only good for 1 year at a time anyway. So we'd have to appoint new people. Some of them would probably be the same people, but I think we'd have to redo the appointment. But I think we really don't want to try to do that until 23. They have an option though. Right now, everybody they can purchase a core program, one of those 2, using state federal or local funds. The problem we had before is they could not use state funds until after the board took some action. And what we've done is say, we're gonna defer that back to the locals. You can use a local process. But our memo would say, but your process has to start with, if you're gonna use state funds, you have to buy one of the two the Literacy Task Force has recommended. And so to buy something different, they would have to use local funds, and I think they're outside of compliance anyway with with what we've said. And I mean, I wouldn't look favorably on that, to be honest with you. But in the end, I guess I'm limited. I can't go in
And
close
Dr.
all
Mackey,
the
you
schools
probably
for that.
answered this, but the rubrics, when do you expect them to
Tomorrow.
get those? Oh,
Today
okay.
or tomorrow.
And the ones
Immediately.
with all the comments,
Yes.
because they're hungry for all those
Yes.
comments.
Today or tomorrow. We expect those to get out immediately.
For
If I'm the
K
board's vote.
through 12,
For
or just for
4
4?
through 12.
Now, will they get comments from I guess, was it,
The
so
K
the
through.
textbook committee didn't even evaluate the other one, did it?
Well, they evaluated one of them, but not the other one.
Just one.
Okay,
One is grade
okay.
did not get evaluated.
Yeah, and
So
so
the
I
task
think
force did make comments, or you didn't use the same roommate?
they didn't even, I don't even think they really did it, the textbook committee. We didn't go through and make comments on it, because they only ended up with one vendor to look at.
Okay.
So I think the key on that is to refer them back to the work of the Literacy Task Force, which was a very good vetting.
Right.
And the key to that is that the publishers need to understand we're dead serious, that we're going to teach the science of reading. And, you know, so for them to be saying, okay, for 2023, we're not going to just slap that little sticker on that makes you think that we're science of reading, when in actuality they're not, because we vetted it to those specifics. I find it encouraging that they are actually looking at it as a true
Absolutely.
science of reading core program.
I do too. And that Literacy
That's
Task
what we need
Force
for our kids.
came in, I mean, they
We did.
they worked very hard
We
going
did.
through those books. They were looking at them. So that's why I had no heartburn issuing that memo last July 1st that said, you're gonna buy a core reading program, you have to buy one of these, because we brought in people we trust to do the vetting, and they say these are the only two. I'm not gonna say they're not the only two in the country. Of the ones that were submitted for review, they were the only two that the Literacy Task Force recommended. There are, to be fair to vendors that didn't make the list, some of them had a lot of good, like they taught, and I'll just use a number, maybe they were 85% or 90% aligned with the science of reading. But what we asked the Literacy Task Force to do was, if a teacher picks up this textbook, this material, and they just teach this, and they don't supplement it with anything else, they just teach the lessons in this material, will they have covered all the things required in the science of reading? And there were only 2 vendors of those who submitted that they said if they just pick this up and teach it from cover to cover, because y'all know sometimes that's what teachers do. I've been one too. New teachers, they've got a lot going on. They just take this book and teach it from cover to cover. Well, they have covered all the concepts in science reading. Now, there were others that they said, if they use this book and they supplement this thing and this thing, then they will still have covered the science reading. But we didn't ask for if they use supplemental materials, if they just use this core program. And that's why you had a very limited scope. There are some others that were really, really good, but they didn't have 100% coverage in what we felt like. And I must say we, I'm using that term liberally, our Literacy Task Force, we as a state feel like needs to be in there. I do think by 23, we might get more submittals, because I think companies are starting to learn that other states, I guess we were only the second state that did letters statewide that said, and we were the only state that took it into the colleges and all too, so we even jumped Mississippi on that. But I met with the letters, their vice president and a couple of their big team, their executive team came in last week. We spent a lot of time together. They now have like 17 states that are jumping on board. So as more states textbook companies are not gonna rewrite everything because 2 states change. But as more states come on board, they're going to want to line up with what it is we demand, and I think we'll get better stuff.
I do too.
I do, and I,
Dr. Mackey, to follow up on what she said about the release of information that was embargoed, since we took action K3, my assumption is that those private communications and evaluations that the textbook committee acted on are still embargoed and are not to be released.
K3, we won't have anything to release.
No, but there's nothing, I said, that's what I'm saying, that will not be released.
Right.
Because that's what Dr. McCarty asked. 4 and above, we approved, so the process releases that.
That's right.
But the other that we didn't approve remains embargoed, correct? That's good.
Okay, Dr. McCarty, back to you.
Let's see.
That's very good.
Okay, we know we have administrator programs, right, where you can get an administrative degree.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In those programs, do they get exposure to the science of reading? Do they, and I say, the reason I'm asking this is I see the principal as the instructional leader for the school. Do these admin programs include some of the science of reading, include some of the math methods or content that we believe to be necessary to be an effective principal?
I don't want to speak holistically about all of them. In general, no, because administrative certification programs are administrative in nature. They're about budgeting, school law,
technology,
discipline, technology. They're administrative functions. It would be very hard to get away from that, because that's that certification is about running a school. And so they're really, I would think the thing they most focus on, it used to be, is school law. Application of school law to employees and students. So it's a different tact. I think, I know where you're going. I think I know where you're going. Maybe I don't. But I think what you have to do, we've got to depend on that professional development piece, depending on where the principal's hired. And here's one of the things. So we offer our administrative program. You get an administrative certificate. You may use that to be a special ed director. You may be an assistant principal at a K-1 school. You might be an assistant principal at a high school. I say assistant because most of them start out as assistant principals. Then eventually, we work to principalships. So it's a very global degree certification program that's in things like school law, discipline, management of a team, budget. Depending on where you land, it's got to be your PD. I'm a perfect example. Because I was a high school, middle school teacher, got my administrative certification, and then ended up principal of Keystone Elementary School. So I had to really, I had to go with my teachers for 2 weeks of, that was pre-Alabama Reading Initiative, but it was a reading program we were implementing, and I went with my teachers to Birmingham to do all the training. But had I ended up being at a high school or some other thing, I wouldn't have needed that. So it almost is like we got to figure out where they're going and then do intensive work. Now, do we need to do more? Yes, because we need to make sure our principals know, especially our elementary principals and middle school principals, the very foundations of science of reading. And really, there's a bigger field, and we keep talking about science of reading, that the field of study is actually called science of learning. There's a reading component, but then there's also, of course, literacy, there's science, but it's science of science learning. But it is the science of learning. How does the brain learn? And that's what we're really talking about. So,
can we encourage that? I guess, like you mentioned earlier, the principal at Coleman City, who went through the admin letters training on her own, decided that wasn't enough for her to really support her teachers. So then she chose to go with her teachers to the elementary ed letters training.
Yeah.
And I guess to me, she's an exemplar. She's what we would like. How do we incentivize or encourage other principals? And that's just literacy, but you know, we could do it for math as well. But how do we encourage them and offer them ample opportunities for that sort of professional development?
That's a good question. I need to go back with our team and see, what are we doing?
Right, right.
And it's that old offer versus serve. If they're not, now one of the things that we do for the most significantly affected schools with literacy, we require the principals to do a lot of training. So the ones that are in that lowest percentage. Look, Bonnie Short shows up just on time. So she might, I don't know if you've been hearing any of that discussion, the questions about principal. Okay, well, you will come up and talk to us about it. What we do for principal training, and I don't know what we do is what I call offer versus serve. I think I actually got that from C&P, but.
You were talking about incentivizing. And
Right,
I do
and in a
think
positive way, in a positive.
I do think the letter stipend is one way to do that. We didn't offer that to principals. And there's two different components, the administrative and the elementary. The administrative does not have a mastery component to it. So it wasn't really something that we could consider from the get-go of providing. It's a 1 year. There's some videos and some coursework that goes with it, some face-to-face that they see, but there's no pre-test, post-test in the administrative course because it's general information, like Jackie Ziegler said earlier. But with the letters elementary and the letters early childhood, they both have post-test affiliated with them, which determines that mastery status. So as we look to additional stipends released in the spring or the summer, that would be something that could be considered to provide that stipend for the elementary coursework.
And can we put
If
it
you're
on
an
the permanent
administrator.
transcript, just like we do
Put
with
it in their permanent record.
Well, yeah, in there, just like we do with teachers, right?
The transcript would
Well,
take
they
place
can-
regardless, because we're providing that information to certification to let them know
Okay.
who has achieved that mastery status in the elementary or the early childhood. So that's gonna happen, but the financial incentive, a little bit different. And as I understand it, we have additional funds so that we would be able to offer a stipend in the future. It's just a matter of who we can offer it to.
Thank you. I like that idea.
Yeah. Good
My
question.
administrative certificate, I had none of that training, but I had some at-home in-service, because I was a secondary person. I had an administrative certificate, became a superintendent, and that's why sometimes when I listen to your very learned questions, as a board member, I'm learning about those factors which I wasn't a participant in my preparation program, and that's the reality. You can only cram so much in to administrative course to equip people to serve as an administrator.
Right,
And
well, I
operate.
thought I knew your answer, but then I was like, okay, if we can't get it done there, where, how can we get it done? Because I think we want to encourage that.
And the administrative course is a nice place for some people to start. You're coming from a secondary background, learning the structures of the science of reading and what I need to do. That may be the perfect place for you. But then, to accentuate it, you go into that element, because it is much deeper. And like you said, we want instructional leaders guiding our teachers.
Right.
We're very lucky that we have the regional literacy leadership people who can work alongside those principals and the central office staff to be able to provide guidance in looking for those learning patterns and what they need to be looking for. That's a real advantage to what we've done with ARI over some other proposed.
Well, and then I'd like to do the same thing you're describing for math. Right, so that we could also get those, let's say you've got an English high school teacher who's now the principal of an elementary school and their math scores are low. So how does that principal know best how to encourage the positive practices with her teachers or his teachers, and what to how to identify who's doing a great job and who might need a little bit of support.
What you spoke of earlier, we just gotta be careful that balance of what we're putting on our administrators and our teachers and making sure we're speaking from the same language. And Sandy Ledwell has been amazing to work with, where we can sit side by side. We now have the coaching framework that aligns to everybody. We're both having Diane Sweeney that's coming to work with our regional coaches, who's a national expert on coaching. And so the work that she's been doing with our regionals has been incredible, and it helps guide them on how they need to be guiding those local reading specialists in the classroom, to where we have transference. It's not just about, I want to help you now with this today, but it's I want to help you this for a lifetime, to where you're going to impact people with that knowledge. We have Diane Sweeney coming next week to work with our regionals, and we've invited members from special ed and Melissa Shields' group. They're gonna come. EL has come to work to support with that. Sandy has that group coming on already. And we also have people from Department of Early Childhood Education that are gonna be joining to see our work with Diane Sweeney. So when we can be working together to minimize the work for our principals and our teachers.
Right, I mean, I don't want to overburden them, but
Yeah.
I just feel like you are a better administrator. You have a better sense of how best to evaluate and encourage good teaching practices if you have some knowledge of what to look for, of what is best. So, I'm not trying to do everything today.
No.
But just trying to,
Look at the big picture of
encourage,
it, and what does
right.
it look like for us in the future? Absolutely.
But as a person that went through the administrative program, and what they teach you is to analyze the needs of your organization, whether it's an elementary school or high school or superintendency, and to use those resources to improve yourself. So the mechanism of instructing administrators on how to evaluate their needs and employ the right people. When I was employing elementary teachers, I may not have known what they taught, but I knew how to ask and ascertain their skill sets before I put them in that position. And part of that I learned and was instructed in those administrative courses. It's also called resource analysis or problem solving. And if you're dealing with low reading scores and other things, that's what happens. And I actually, when we gave the old Stanford Achievement Test, as a statistician, I ordered the item analysis by student, by classroom. And then we dealt with those problems. That's problem solving, and that's covered in our administrative program. That's important, right? As an administrator in a school board.
Okay. That was a question?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The only one I was gonna say, stay there. This is more specific to dyslexia. Had a parent call not too long ago and was concerned that she had asked, the parent and the teacher had a strong belief that the child was exhibiting some dyslexic behavior and wanted testing and was very frustrated that that couldn't be done in a timely manner. What is our protocol? What is the best practice for if a parent believes the child is dyslexic? But what's the appropriate steps, right, for that parent? How do I best help this parent who believes that child?
Entered into two different possible realms with the conversation that you said, which one would be special ed testing, that you were discussing needing a testing process and the length. Another would be looking to see if we can demonstrate characteristics of dyslexia. We don't diagnose dyslexia at this point. We only show characteristics of dyslexia. With the early years assessments that we provide each of the districts $6 a child for in reading and $6 a child for math, those early literacy assessments have some sort of process in them to where we're looking to try to diagnose those, not diagnose, we're looking to try to be diagnostic with those individuals early to find do we have aspects of reading that we need to be able to support early to prevent problems that we have in the future? And so when we see that a child has a deficiency based on those assessments, then that triggers to look at, do we have a consistent deficiency? Is this something, which that's the wording from the law, consistent deficiency. And if we have that, then we develop the student reading improvement plan, and that child should be receiving intervention in one of our programs that the Literacy Task Force provided us the intervention program list, and then we released our list to, they have one of those programs that they have to use on students who have that deficiency.
But is the timing, like what is a reasonable amount of time? Because I know schools are busy, right? I know they're overwhelmed, but what is a reasonable amount of time once the teacher and the parent go to the principal and say, we have reason to suspect this might be an issue. Can you help us? What do I do next? Advise me, counsel me.
The first thing I want to do is I want to see is the program that we're giving that's supposed to support children who have dyslexia, is that working? I want to see, is that program going to work for that child?
But first we've got to see, is the child even
diagnosed
with, I mean, is it, I guess,
show, demonstrate.
right. I mean, you suspect it, but it's a parent who doesn't know. I mean, they're not skilled in this. Right, the parent and then the teacher agreed with the parent that yes, I think that might be an issue. But then what next?
And
what's the next
And
step?
then we have the dyslexia resource guide that outlines for them exactly a process. Each LEA looks at a different process, but it's specific as far as what can qualify for the different tests that they take. And for example, if you're looking at a younger child, you're looking at 5 different screening processes that you would look at, and they would have to have the majority of those that showed there was a deficiency or that there was an issue, and those children would be considered to have the characteristics of dyslexia.
And can you send us the link, or could you,
Absolutely.
for sure me, and I would assume everybody else would want it too.
And anytime you get an email from me, at the bottom of it, I have a link that says, yes, the quick links, and I've got that dyslexia resource guide on there, and all kinds of things that are just,
the parent resources.
our people would readily use. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you have a particular parent that feels like their child might have a learning disability and they don't think the school's doing something, it's certainly fine to refer that to us too, because we'll follow up in school on a referral. If they think their child might have a learning disability, which dyslexia can be, though a child can have dyslexia and not be considered learning disabled too.
Because isn't it a 90-day turnaround? I mean, the law states, once a parent requests it, that you have a
Evaluation for
definitive-
special education,
That's
yes,
right.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
But now that's different. than
Evaluation
dyslexia.
has to be done.
Exactly, so that's where it gets
There
is a
confusing. I
didn't hear what you said, that's different, then I'm sorry, I was trying to.
When you're
listen.
just determining the characteristics for dyslexia, that does not fall under those parameters.
Right.
So that's where there is no definitive timeline. And that's upon which you're discussing.
Right. I just what is reasonable? I'm not trying to put too much of a burden on any school or any system, but you do kind of want a sense of, okay, within this time range, we should be
Especially
able
if you want to
to.
help the kid.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Right.
Well,
Tomorrow.
they should, in general, and it's hard, specific, every child's obviously specific.
In every situation is a little
But in
bit
general,
different.
that 90 days is a pretty good
It's a pretty
timeline.
good rule of thumb.
You should have some diagnostic information from those screeners we have. They should be
90.
able to look and make some kind of determination within 90 days,
That's a
in
good
general.
rule of thumb.
I would think.
Okay. And is a screener, if the child is older, if somehow that child fell through the cracks and is older when this is, do we have screeners all the way up through high school?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
The resource guide
Okay.
directs them.
Because I think
Kindergarten
of
is
it
that
younger,
one-
but I didn't know
Right.
about the elders.
Kindergarten is that one age that's a little bit different, because we wanna make sure that we have evidence of their learning. So where are we with the learning and make sure that they've received proper instruction. So typically, with a kindergarten student, you probably wouldn't look at them until around January. And in my conversations with Sonia Yates, president of the Dyslexia Advisory Council, that was also consistent with what she was saying.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
Oh, yes.
Good.
I would comment, since you mentioned that, in my area, autism is another area that's getting a lot of attention. And the diagnosis and implementation of a plan and how long it is and whether we're having these quiet or private rooms or whether these quiet or private rooms are used as punishment is occurring. So that's always part of why you have a good administrator. I mean, reasonable is an undefinable term.
Exactly.
And
I'd like to get a
what
range.
is reasonable to me is it happened tomorrow. What is reasonable to that parent, I mean, is yesterday.
Yesterday.
So,
Exactly. Thank you.
Anyone else, any more questions?
great.
So I remind you, so on March the 9th, the day before the board meeting, if you haven't made plans, remember, we're gonna do that reception. You got something, should have gotten something, I think, from Nora or maybe directly from Andy Meadows, but we'll have that reception for the arts winners out at Shakespeare Park. Well, and one of the things
What time is that?
I think it's like 2:00, or mid-afternoon. We've moved it because, you know, we used to try to do, some of y'all were here, we did the little luncheon, which was great, but it was always rushed. We were trying to get over there and get back. You know, y'all felt rushed about it, so we decided, why not try to do something where we spend more time with them, where you can mingle and talk to parents and students and not feel rushed. And so he came up with this idea about going to Shakespeare Festival. I think it'll be really nice. We'll do the ceremony and hand out the resolutions that day. The resolution you passed, that's just one resolution for all the others, but we'll have an individual one for each one of them. And so it'll be a nice day, and I just want you to remind you that that would mean coming in early the day before. So if you can plan to do that, if you can. If it rains, they have a rain plan, I'm not sure what it is. The Capital Tunes, we'll do this one at the next meeting too. So which one is it? Tuscaloosa City. Tuscaloosa City Strings. So we'll figure out, we'll take a break and either do that here in the Rotunda or we'll go across to the Capitol. You know, when we did this before, we did them 2 months. One month we listened to them here, the other month we went to the Capitol. It was a little complex to get all of y'all over to the Capitol for that performance, but it was also really nice. It's great over there, great acoustics. It just means for March and April, we have to